go ahead and call the meeting. This is August 20th, 2024. At 6 p.m. We're calling the meeting, the annual monthly meeting for the MEDC, Montgomery Economic Development Corporation. Present today, we have Carol Langley, Arnett Easley, Casey, and Olson, and Dan Walker. So we have a quorum, so we're good. We have quite an agenda tonight. We're going to start out with the approval of the May 8th meeting and workshop meetings minutes. Does anybody, first off, do we have any public comments? No? No? Okay. So I'd like to go ahead then and see if we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the May 8th, 2024 meeting workshop.
I make the motion to approve the minutes for May 8th, 2024 meeting workshop. I second.
So it's been motioned and seconded that we approve the minute, the meeting minutes for the May 8th workshop. This is amendable, debatable, but requires a majority vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed? So we will approve the minutes for May 8th. Second on the agenda is the approval of the July 31st, 2024 budget workshop meeting minutes. And do we have any discussion on that? Are we okay? Everybody's got a chance to read it? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. All right, so we can entertain a motion to approve those.
Make a motion to approve the July 31st budget workshop minutes.
Second. So Casey has made a motion to approve the minutes, and Arnett has seconded. So this is amendable, debatable, requires a majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So that has been, those minutes have been approved. And then we are now to item number 3. This is consideration of possible action on the proposed fiscal year 2025 MEDC budget, and I believe that's, we don't have a copy of that here, but we got it there, right?
No, sir, it is in your
this
packet,
budget.
but the monthly financial report was what wasn't in the packet. I just failed to put in the packet, but the budget, the proposed budget is in the packet.
Okay.
And that is on page 11 of your...
All right, has anything changed since the workshop?
So I'll frame this for you.
Okay.
For the EDC. So you may recall we did a workshop at the last meeting a couple weeks ago. And the way the timeline goes for our budget, we have to have the proposed budget adopted, approved by the city council to post for 30 days prior to the adoption of the final budget. And technically, you can't change that between the time you post it and the time you adopt it. Only under certain circumstances. So we had that workshop, we went through line item by line item, and so tonight is really your last crack at this before we bring the budget to the council in a month for them to approve it.
Okay.
Now, we're not going to change anything from now until then, but if there is something that you guys see in here that you really need changed, we can change that before we bring the budget to the council to have it approved. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay.
As long as it's, a pretty significant change. If it's something very minor,
Not a big deal.
it's, yeah.
So do we have anybody who wants to make any comments about this budget? I mean, I know we kind of went through this quite a bit, but Carol, you usually have a thing or two to say, being the treasurer and knowing where all the nickels are buried.
I just want Mary Ann to discuss the quality of life events for everybody one more time as to how it works.
Sure. So last year, you may recall, in an effort to try to tidy up some of the line items that we see in this budget, not just in EDC's budget, but also in the city's budget. There are several areas where we've done some consolidating. One of those on your budget is the quality of life events category. So what you see here is a total amount that is used for quality of life events, and not it's still gonna show on your worksheet because that has to be on there. It's a 3-year period, so it'll fall off. Some of them are gonna fall off this next year because nothing happened in 22-23 with that event. But instead of that, your budget continuing to grow and grow and grow with these line items, we put it all under the lump sum. And then internally, there's a document that's managed by Patty for each one of your events that you fund each year. So that's that's what you see here that's different. It's not that the money went anywhere, because the money is still here. It's just for the purposes of your budget, you're budgeting $76,000 for events. And then you, as a board, determine how that $76,000 is divided up. And that gives you more flexibility with those funds. If there's a new, a new event that comes and requests money, it gives you the flexibility to utilize that money.
We don't have to move it from one to another.
Correct.
Got it.
And if you have a savings in one event, if you say, okay, we're gonna spend $5,000 in here, it ends up only costing you $4,000, and you have surplus, and you're like, we could add to this event, you have the flexibility to do that, and you don't have to do anything within your budget, because it's just an events line.
Okay, so it's just it's a bucket. Okay. Is our new budget, is it considering the new police district siphoning off that money for that district? Is the new budget take that into consideration?
It currently does.
But it may change if it's not voted in, correct?
Correct.
And then what would happen to that? Where would that go into the budget?
So it just will roll into your fund balance at the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, it still maintains as the EDC.
Okay.
So the idea with your budget is that and the reason we did it this way is we didn't want to over-project your revenue and in turn over-project what you have available to spend.
Right.
And then if the CCPD is passed, then we would have to come back in and reduce your projection for your revenue. If we start with a reduced projection in your revenue and we can make your expenses work with that, it's a much simpler process. If you bring in way more revenue than what we stated,
It always
good
go up
for
as
you.
far as we're going.
Yeah, good for you. So
Okay.
that's why we do it in that.
Okay, that was my only question that I had as far as, if it's not voted in, what happens,
Explain what the components of this police district is going to entail.
I can't do that.
That would be more Gary.
As far as components,
What is it for?
the police district, if it's passed by the voters, which is going to be on for referendum in November, it will take 1/4 of the half a cent that you guys get now and put it towards certain expenses that are allowed by police generated through this district. They can use it for some capital purchases, equipment, training. A lot of the things that are currently in our operating budget now could be used by the PD if this district is approved. So when we say district, it's really the entire city. So it's a citywide taxing district that will pull that half a quarter cent and use that for police expenses.
I'm sure that it's been studied and needed.
Well, it's to offset, if you look at our budget over, 67% of it is police.
Oh, yeah, well, I see a lot of surplus out there that probably gotten rid of too. I played cop for 22 years, so that's part of the program.
That's all paid for, so it's
Well, I understand that.
Okay, so did you need any other clarification, Dan, or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Carol, anything?
And where is Patty's money in the budget at? Is it in transfers to general fund, or is it in consulting professional services?
It's in the transfers to general fund because her payroll comes out of the general fund. So she's not a contracted professional with you all, she is an employee, and payroll is
Okay.
handled on the city side.
Do you know how much of that? How much out of the 187, how much is going to the city from MEDC for other?
Right, so that was was the breakdown that we discussed at the workshop in July. So that includes all of your event coordinators' salary and benefits, so the payroll, taxes, retirement, health insurance.
Okay.
It is a office space at $500 a month for your events person. The computer, phone, technology, all of those items, it's more cost effective to include her with the bundle that we have for the city, right? So that's also at $500 a month. You have the meeting and conference space, which is right here for your your monthly meetings and any workshops that you would have. Multimedia, the live stream, the social, the website. A portion, 10% of finance director compensation, 10% of city secretary compensation, 10% of the annual audit, and 25% of the city administration, city administrator's compensation. As we talked about a little bit, that could potentially be reduced if the city administrator did not need to provide as much services if you go with the contracted service under what's being budgeted in that professional services. But we don't know that at this point. We don't know what that time frame looks like. So that's why that is budgeted at this time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do we want to push forward with the budget the way it is and put it out for public review? Do we need a motion for that today?
Yes.
Okay. So can I hear a motion to accept the budget for the fiscal year 2025 as it's proposed?
Make a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 25 MEDC budget.
Second. Okay, so it's been motioned and seconded that we allow the proposed fiscal year 2025 MEDC budget to go forward. This amendment requires a majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, then we will push forward and see where the public takes us. Next on the list is the incomparable Daisy Beasley, Retail Strategies, who has come here. You are the president of Retail Strategies, right? Well, thank you for taking the time out.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we appreciate you doing that, and we're going to give you the floor so that you can talk to us about how you're going to sort of help the city define next steps in making it the greatest city in Texas. Okay.
You're already there. So
Well,
you better, right?
Let me tee this up for you. A little bit of history. I'll have to go back and give it for the minutes. So shortly after my arrival in the city council and I undertook a priority setting session to determine the priorities of the city for the next 1 to 3 years. So one of the priorities that was identified during that session was getting an economic development strategic plan drafted, adopted, and priority set for the EDC. We had talked about that before. To that end, early on, I contacted several private firms that offer the local government planning and economic development services. I had worked successfully with Lacey and Retail Strategies for about 5-6 years doing the economic development stuff, so I reached out to Lacey for guidance. I did not know, she told me they had expanded into Texas, so that's when I contacted Chris Von Traeger, who came and presented back in May, if you guys remember that, during that workshop. So again, he came and presented, and at that meeting, we decided coming out of there, we wanted to move forward on the agreement, so we were doing that, and a little bit of a hiccup, we needed to issue an RFQ before we could move forward on that. So we did issue the RFQ for economic development planning services. It's in your packet. We let that soak for about a month and got a handful of responses, including Retail Strategies. And after we went through and ranked, the Retail Strategies was the most qualified respondent for the city of Montgomery for these projects. So that's what kind of brings us to us tonight. So in between then and now, I mean, I get the sense that you guys have cooled on this idea about using the private sector when I kind of go back to that economic development director position. city position. And, the more that I looked at this and analyzed it, talking to people, I do not think we're at that point. I think at some point we'll be there. And maybe at some point we look at a hybrid model where we have some contracted services, but also have some in-house economic development management going on. Kind of back to the point that Mary Ann was making about the budget of my services. So anyway, so after we got the RFQ back, we came and talked about it at the last meeting, and we decided, and I talked to Lacey, and she was kind enough to agree to come here tonight and present to you all, and kind of just go back and maybe hit some of the points that Chris hit when he presented, but also I kind of wanted to have this just an organic conversation between you and Lacey, so she can tell you guys what is out there, what services they offer, her opinion on the economic development landscape in 2024 for cities. And another conversation I know you guys were having was, do we want to go after retail, or do we want to go after employment center development type opportunities? And I think she can speak to that a little bit as well. Anyway, I'll shut up and turn this over to Lacey so she can talk about it. But anyway, Lacey, floor is yours.
Thank you for that introduction and the history. Thank you all for letting me come visit with you today. It's really nice to be here back in Montgomery. I came during the pandemic, so it's been a little while since I've been here. So it was nice to revisit. I spent a lot of time today kind of driving around and experiencing the businesses that you have. So you did hear from Chris Montgomery back in May, but I know a lot of time has passed since then and now. So I'll go with a high-level recap, and I have a lot of materials that you've already reviewed about how we could potentially partner. So I'll go high-level overview, and then we can turn it into really more of a discussion if you'd like. I've been in this industry about 20 years, started at a Chamber of Commerce, and then converted over to working in commercial real estate with a focus in retail, and used to work with all the big box retailers all over Tennessee, and then started working with communities around 2009. So we've been doing this quite a while, and it's been a lot of fun. So our company, overall, Retail Strategies, we've worked with around 800 rural municipalities in 41 states over the last decade. And I started at a company called the Shopping Center Group, and then converted over to Retail Strategies. So at Retail Strategies, about 800 communities that we've worked with. And what we do when we partner with communities is really look at the businesses that are there in their real estate and how we can help enhance as a supplement to the economic development team. This all started focused fully on national retail recruitment. If you look across the country, what you see is a lot of communities have economic development agencies that are just focused on primary jobs only, but there's always a question about retail. What do you do about retail? Because everybody in the community has an opinion about retail because we're all interacting with it. We're all shopping, we're all eating, but there's not usually a focused space just to focus on business recruitment and business retention whenever it comes to retail, restaurants, and hospitality. And that's what Retail Strategies does. We serve communities in that aspect specifically. When you think about forming a city government, you have the city manager, economic development director, the Chamber of Commerce, and they all have different initiatives that you don't always have somebody just solely focused on national retail recruitment and downtown revitalization. So we kept hearing from communities that that's what they wanted, and that's what we've done is develop that. So what we're talking about with you is really two different initiatives that we run parallel paths. One is national retail recruitment, and the other is assisting with your downtown. So I'm going to talk about those two things. Let's first start with the downtown. Our program is called Downtown Strategies, and that program is run by Jen Gregory. Jen worked as a Main Street director in Starkville, Mississippi for about 10 years, completely revitalized downtown Starkville. And what I really like about her approach is it's very practical. As a practitioner who did the work herself, she knows really how to put a plan together. And what we do with our downtown planning is it's not a master plan, not a comprehensive plan. It's very much a work action plan for a local task force. And it's using all the experience we've had from all the communities we work with nationwide to come in and say, this is where we think you can focus on a monthly basis. And here are steps you can take, here's who will be in charge of each one of those steps, and how you can really move forward and make those small incremental steps to make big change over time. A lot of things we see in those master plans are, it's a, $5 million initiative here, a $10 million initiative here, and it's, well, we have a few $1,000s in our budget, what can we do with our effort? And that is how our program is designed, is to really look at things like policy administration, events. You already have a lot of events, anything we can do to help with ideas and creativity and enhancing the events you already have, wayfinding signs, color schemes, facade grant improvement programs, the incentives you can use with the Chapter 380 that you might be able to incentivize, small business support initiatives. So all that's a part of it, but it's really coming in and customizing that 5-year plan for you. And that is our downtown strategy. So it's very unique. To my knowledge, nobody in the country is doing this, where it's just really taking that perspective and putting together a work action plan for a local task force, using our resources and our knowledge and help adding, just being an accountability partner for you. So we're looking at a 3-year partnership there. First year being $40,000, next year 25, and then next year 25 for the downtown initiative. So when you think about downtown, think about that as your heart, your soul, your character. It's a place for tourism. It's a place for community. I was able to go in and out and view your shops today, which was nice to see them busy and see a few people just sitting around catching up about life. And that's where people want to go for the experience. And then think about your national retailers. And that's actually polar opposite. A lot of times when we think about retail, we lump them all together. National retail wants to be in a place with the highest traffic count in town. They want to see a parking right out in front. They want co-tenancy. Usually whoever's making that investment doesn't live locally. And what they do is really help drive sales tax revenue, jobs, and property tax revenue, and build retail synergy. So think of the national retail as more of an economic driver and really kind of a quality of life, where you can go to your grocery store, which you have a couple already, they're really good, but those daily goods and services you need that are quick and service oriented. And then think of your downtown as being locally owned businesses that are about tourism and character. So we run these parallel paths, and we have 2 completely different, separate teams that work on these. Our downtown team is strictly has a background and experience in downtown. Our national retail recruitment strictly has experience in national retail recruitment. So as a company, we have a process that we follow for both of those. We start with data. It's discovery. We invest around $200,000 a year in research, data, and GIS services. So all that is available to you throughout the entire partnership. Then we do real estate, and that's true for both of them. We're going to look at real estate that you currently have and where we can really fill in some gaps. And then finally, it's putting together a plan, but it's more about implementing a plan. Nothing we do is about a study that sits on a shelf. It's about a plan to get you started, get everything together, but then it's about putting that into action. So the National Retail Recruitment Program, we call all the property owners. We identify properties that are on market and off market, and then we come up with a list of retailers, restaurants, and hotels that we think should be in Montgomery that are not. And then we proactively reach out to all of them. And then we come back to you with quarterly reporting. Here's who we reached out to, here's what they said. It was interesting driving around and seeing that you have several different signs up with different companies and different leasing agents. Sometimes you'll see a community and every single sign is the same leasing agent, same company. You have a dozen or more different influencers in this space, which is another place where I think we can really help. So if you think about one property might have a good national prospect, and that doesn't work for them for whatever reason, it could work out in negotiations, and then that opportunity closes, right? But if we're involved, we might be able to have the opportunity to say, well, this site didn't work, but maybe this one will, and keep them engaged in Montgomery overall. So that's what we want to do, is take that holistic approach to all your real estate, all your prospects, and put that to work. So those are the 2 initiatives we're looking at, is really the downtown planning and the national retail recruitment. National retail recruitment is $40,000 in the first year, $45,000 in the second, and $45,000 in the third. If you were to do either of these separately, the rates would be a little bit higher, because we're looking at combining them.
these, so there's two separate agreements is what you're saying?
Yes.
One is for national retail recruitment, the other is for downtown revitalization.
That's correct.
Okay, so what's the total cost for Harry for the first year?
First year, 80,000.
And then the second and third year?
Second, I think, is 40 for the one and then 25.
25.
That's right.
So it's like 75, or I mean,
80 and then
65.
70 and 70.
Okay. And this team that we're talking about will have, who's taking care of the actionable items, I guess is a good question.
Yeah, great question. With downtown strategies, you'll have Jen Gregory, who's the president of downtown. She'll be supported by Jeremy Murdoch, and then Laura Marinos will support them as well. So you're gonna have a team of 3 focused on downtown. And then for national retail recruitment, you're gonna have Madison Neal, who is the portfolio director, main point of contact. He's supported by Megan Jimenez, who's their retail recruiter. And then they're supported by Ashton Rosen, who's the communications coordinator. So you'll have a total of 16 members from retail strategies that are dedicated to Montgomery. We have a separate research and marketing team and a separate team of executives and a separate team that works on the business development side. So I think that's what makes us very unique is that as your consultant, our team that is focused on Montgomery, that's all they work on is implementation. We have a 4-to-1 client-to-staff ratio. What we do is really, even though we invest $200,000 a year in research, data, and analytics, that's just a tool. Where we place the majority of our investment is in humans and human capital, right? So we believe it takes people to make things happen. So that's where that 4-to-1 client-to-staff ratio is.
I know you haven't had a chance to look at the data, but just driving around town and kind of getting a visual of obviously we don't have any, we do have a wayfinding sign package that we're looking at tonight. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but it's very comprehensive. It's already bought and paid for. Dave and I were talking, that usually comes at the end of a consultant's, of a 5-year plan or whatever, but we're so far behind on that we had already sort of jump-started it actually over a year ago. So we're ready to go with it. Is that something that could be implemented more towards the beginning if we decide?
Absolutely. For the plan, it's very customized. What are your priorities? So it starts with a stakeholder meeting. Jen Gregory would come here to a stakeholder meeting where it'd be really listening. What are your priorities? What are your needs? Meeting with whoever you would like to invite, whoever you think is important for the stakeholder meeting. And then from there will be a written plan.
Okay. And then if when you're talking about national retailers, I think there's been, we talked a little bit about the focus on bringing, I don't know, like healthcare or other types of facilities, to make large investments for jobs, because having retail is great, but if you don't have people to shop, that's where we run into our problems. A lot of people head east to go into town or to Houston or to Woodlands, but we tend to lose most of our day-to-day traffic. They're here in the morning, they're here in the evening, but they're not here in the middle.
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile that? How do you get people to balance that a little bit?
That's a great question. It's hard in all things economic development or community development. Where do you prioritize? And Montgomery's interesting because you're landlocked. So it's really looking at the land that you do have and the assets you have and how you can capitalize on. You have about 21,000 vehicles per day right here on the highway that are going by every day. You can capture, and I've spent plenty of time this afternoon watching this stream of traffic, just constant flow coming through. So there's a lot of opportunity here. I think overall in the industry, what I'm seeing, been doing commercial real estate and focused in retail for about 20 years. We're seeing the office market is pretty dried up at the time right now. And it's because there's a lot of work from home, so those and workforce is a real challenge too that people are finding. So a lot of focus that we're seeing right now is really going to be based more on rooftops and people are looking for quality of life. And so there's been a huge shift. I think there's that traditional training in economic development that from my perspective wouldn't apply the same way in Montgomery. And that traditional training is go primary jobs, and usually they're talking industrial jobs, manufacturing,
Right.
automotive, aviation, plastics, things like that. Right now, we're seeing a lot of data centers as well. The idea was you get that job, and then people move there, and that gets the rooftops, and then the retail follows that, right? And I think that's a bit different here, is because just because you were able to recruit that job doesn't mean anybody's gonna live locally, and it doesn't mean the retail's gonna follow that. The way the workforce is today is completely different from how it was 30 years ago, when that training for traditional economic development was established. And I think that training is starting to be redone at this point. Even International Economic Development Council is looking at what they're calling capacity building, which is first coming up and having that vibrant retail base, because that attracts, it's good school systems, good homes, and retail, and you need that kind of trifecta of the three, and then that builds your workforce, and then that helps bring the
Because a lot of
jobs.
people are staying at home and working from home.
Exactly.
How many rooftops are we anticipating over the next 5 years? Is it around 1,000?
Next 5 years, yeah.
About 5,000?
About
1,000. Just in the Montgomery, but
It's not just in our 5 square miles.
okay, so
there's a-
what about outside of, I mean, just, let's say 4 or 5 miles outside of our, even 10-mile radius?
10, 15 times that, just as a, just as a.
So-
Because that's really what you're talking
So
about.
here's a few numbers that I've looked at several times. Our population, obviously, in Montgomery is very low, right? We're around 2,000 people. Our trade area, depending on your radius, is 150 to 200,000 people, okay? Our income for Montgomery, average household income for Montgomery, Texas is 98,000. The next line, they moved it, average home price in Montgomery, 500,000. So I totally understand where she's going. My problem is that retail jobs don't buy $500,000 homes,
Right.
right? And even though we have a large 200,000 radius, that 77356 zip code is all 500,000. So they're driving 30 miles for $15 an hour, ain't no happen.
Right.
We've got to have a job that will support being able to live in this community.
Right.
I agree that retail jobs are a lower wage, and that's because a lot of them are part-time, they're seasonal, they're temporary, it's somebody's second job, it's not their primary. And you're right, a retail job isn't going to make somebody move to a city. I think even a primary job isn't going to make somebody move to a city as much as the quality of life of the retail. That's what, they move there and then they find a job. What's interesting is we're seeing a lot of turnover right now. Typically people are staying in their job about 3 to 5 years. So that's why they choose the city. They want to live with a good school system, affordable housing, and good retail first. And then they'll change the job multiple times from there.
Lacey, what would you say, I mean, comparatively, I'm not saying 10 years ago or whatever, but, you know, since COVID, I mean, COVID made it okay to work from home, right?
Right.
So, I mean, compared pre-COVID to now, is there any data to support how many people actually work from home? Because that's an interesting concept, is that high-paying jobs may be, what's that? A lot of work from home.
There's
I
been
mean,
a big change lately, and I think, and I did pull up a few stats pretty quickly. You're showing about year-over-year growth rate at about 10%. So that's a lot. I'm usually seeing that closer to 3%. So to your point, the projected population is very high. But I'm also showing this what we call a retail leakage report, which is the gap analysis, and that's extremely high. So I know that to your point about Montgomery's, you know, you go just within the city populations at 2,000, but we're going to look at that larger retail trade area of the potential to pool. In a 10-minute drive time, you have over a $25 million leakage in general merchandise, right?
what does that mean?
That means people are leaving,
Oh,
going
going somewhere else
outside
to
10
get it.
minutes
Okay.
to get goods and services. I shrunk that down to a 5-minute drive time, and even that is showing about a $5 million retail leakage. So in every category except for building materials and garden equipment,
Right.
or every category other than that, there's retail leakage. So what I would think on the retail is to think more about how how it can drive sales tax revenue. And then that helps fund the budget. Even an average fast food restaurant, like a Whataburger, they do $3.7 million on average per one unit, one store. So if you go 2% local sales tax, you're generating $70,000 just off of a Whataburger. Then it should be about 30 to 50 jobs it'll create, and then you have the property tax as well. So it's pretty easy to justify an investment in retail for that ROI that you get. And then you can take that and really keep using it to help support the downtown businesses and your events.
So what you're saying is that because our stats are showing pro growth all the way around, which you can already start to see all the people are building new Home Depot and Lupe Tortilla, some of the other really sort of higher end, that it's a little easier to sell to retail when they see that there's
Yes.
high income earners.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The average home value is what's showing in a 5-minute drive time from here is $681,000 is the average home value. So that's pretty high. And it's showing in a 5-minute drive time, it's showing that your daytime population actually swells. There's more people that come in.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the school.
It's increasing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we think about labor force, you're right, the total number of employees is a little bit less. So just for the numbers, population 4,000, total number of employees about 2,300, but daytime pop is 11,000. So a lot of that's driving traffic of people coming and going, which they could stop in, the cafe or the,
Right.
grocery store, those things.
So your approach is data driven, but it's also, you have a sort of a cloud view of what you've done in other communities. When you look at our community, what do you see as the low hanging fruit? Without any, I know you haven't done any deep dive, none of your team has been here, but you've driven around. I mean, sometimes you can look at things. I know I used to be in the Santa Claus business. I could walk into a mall and tell you what that store was going to do. So just by looking at the foot traffic.
Yeah.
So can you give me some insight as to what you think our greatest quick, something to elevate our constituency, let's say, the people that we serve. How can we get them to buy into retail strategy approach?
Yeah, I think on the national retail recruitment, what was interesting to me was to see some vacancies, available vacant spaces. The industry right now, for general retail, is running a vacancy rate of 2.5%. It's the lowest vacancy rate we've ever seen in our industry. New construction is really expensive, cost of financing is very expensive, so there's been limited new construction in retail. So the brands are wanting to get out there, they're wanting to grow and expand, so they're looking for space that already exists that they can backfill, and you have some of that right now. So I saw immediate opportunity for what would likely be franchise-based businesses to backfill the existing vacancies. There were a few lots that were available as well. Those are longer-term plays, so we could look at some ground-up development with those over time. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. What we typically do when we're driving around is we're going to do the full inventory of all the real estate that we think is viable, whether that's ground up or existing backfill of vacancies or highest to best use. So even your Montgomery Trace, that's the way that it's kind of angled. We usually want it to angle on the highway, but the way that kind of drops down and is a little bit buried. There's a sea of parking there that's underutilized. Can you put an out parcel in one of the parking lots? Would an investor want to come in and buy that shopping center and maybe improve the tenant mix and repave the parking lot, do better lighting, and put a better facade? And that's called the value add play. We're seeing a lot of investment going towards value add, so that's more of a redevelopment. That's something I saw as well. I don't know anything about the owners, so that's what's hard is you want to do that deep dive on who owns the property, what are their goals for it, do they want to sell it or do they want to hold it, can we help them with the lease, are there any lease exclusions that already exist from the existing tenants that limit other brands from coming in. It's kind of complicated, but that's what I would say is from the national retail perspective, think of us as more of a real estate firm, and that's really where the expertise comes in.
Hey, Tracy, in your professional opinion, when you're in these places looking at properties, don't distressed properties in the area, in the town center, have an impact on whether a developer want to come?
Well,
What do you say?
it's a great question, and it's complicated, and I guess I would say it depends, and I'm not meaning to not answer it, but, you know, developers are for profit, right? So they're gonna look at, all developers have a different strategy. Some wanna buy a distressed property and improve it and then sell it. Some wanna improve the rents and hold it. Some want a single tenant build to suit. We're seeing a lot with, really everything in coffee, which there's already several coffee users, but the coffee, with chicken, pizza, there's big growth there right now, and even, so think about the QSR quick service restaurant, single tenant build to suit, seeing a whole lot there with those developers, so.
We've had a few thoroughfare projects that was on the books and never got implemented, and I'm just a bit disappointed that if you want a person to come to your house, you gotta be clean. So I think this board at large had partnered up with some property owners to say, listen, you know, not so much we're gonna do, but what can we do to assist you? So I think that's key. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on the cut in these sutures, development, but how good does it? You look 2 blocks down the road, it's eyesore. So I just think all that kind of goes together. If you don't ask the question, nothing never get done. And for so long, and more on North Town, it's areas here. It's kind of people just kind of sit on the fence, kind of afraid to ask the question. That elephant in the room. You have to talk. You have to develop dialogue. Nobody is coming out to say, listen, what can we do? This needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
You know.
And we can help with that. Sometimes that's what we help with this.
Exactly.
Is that as the consultant with, you know, I have a different logo on my business card than Gary does. So sometimes we can have those tough conversations and it makes a difference.
Sure.
You know? I also think that's a huge benefit in outsourcing this service is there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of reasons why communities choose to outsource this. But one of them is I found we can get a lot further in conversations with developers, retailers, brokers, franchisees, because we are a real estate firm and they'll share with us a whole lot more than they'll share with anybody that's directly affiliated with the city. And the minute that they see a city official, they lock up, they get real nervous about confidential information or regulation or approvals and they just, you know, they clam up, and that's where we're that comfortable liaison between the two.
Do you, as we start to develop new ordinances that are more friendlier to all businesses really, but also to kind of encourage economic development, what tiers and other types of, what do you see as being kind of the one or two things that really make these retailers or these businesses go, yeah, I want to be a part of that? Because these guys are obviously interested in bringing us in. What sort of things work?
It's definitely an understanding. And so you're looking at new ordinances right now that would, I think what we're seeing, the cost of construction is the big challenge right now. Retailers have not yet raised what they're willing to pay in rent enough to warrant the cost of the new development. So sometimes that gap can be made up through an incentive. So Chapter 380 is great, TERS is great, it's a little more complicated, but it can be done and it's very beneficial. So I think what we like to do when we're involved with that is we look at the economic impact of that retailer. So on average, this retailer, this type of shopping center would generate X amount in retail sales tax, jobs, property tax. And then we work with the developer, look at what they're estimating as rent rates and construction costs, and then that developer's return, which they deserve a return, but let's not make it egregious, right? And then we would say, yes, we think that's a fair ask for an incentive because we do believe there's a gap in the pro forma that's at this level. We do think that's fair, but we want to protect you that it pays out no matter 5 years. It's either a dollar amount or a time limit that it pays out. And then once that expires, then you have, you know, all the benefit from that point forward. And so, yeah, we do that. We work with that with a lot of our communities. They're both great tools and they make a lot of sense. So that would be another thing if you're going to enhance at your building code requirements, you know, to say, to your point about making it look clean and lovely, so every new building that comes in needs this look. Well, if that's going to increase the cost of construction above that retailer's typical pro forma, if it's going to increase that construction cost by 15%, can you look at that 15%, and that's where the incentive comes into play. We know that we're putting this additional cost on you, but we're willing to offset it, but we need it to look this certain way.
Gotcha.
And then they, you know, from them, it's all about the retail sales drive retailers rent drives the developer's construction cost, right? So that's the
Gary,
trickle down effect.
question for you, sorry Lacey, I have to ask Gary. How does council, you know, we talked about this, everybody being on the same page with respect to we're all pulling the wagon in the same direction for the same reasons. How does retail strategies fit into the overall city council view in terms of how you guys want to play with EDC, and we can all kind of, you know, come together on a plan, a big plan? Would it just complement it, or how, or I'm not quite sure how, is Lacey, would she, not Lacey, not you, but your team, would we be a part of their purview and be able to have some oversight as well
So you
as?
said, were you talking about the MEDC?
Yeah,
Yes.
and then would you?
We would be contracting with the city, but this would be a EDC managed project.
Okay, and would you guys, would we be like this? I mean, in terms of we want to make sure that we complement the city's goals and strategies. So Dave, you talked about a little bit about that before. Can you explain how that would work?
I'll say from what I think the question is kind of how, in, you know, specific to, say, an economic development, you know, project or a potential project or negotiation, you know, I would think that the city council would then, you know, look to, you know, retail strategies largely in the same way as a resource to say, hey, we know, you know, generally the parameters of a 380 agreement, but what are you seeing out there in terms of what other, you know, what is the market, you know, doing right now to the point of, you know, is this, you know, to help the council and, you know, you guys, if y'all are involved in the 380, would be, is this a good deal or we get taken for a ride here? And sometimes it's hard to gauge that, you know, from just your perspective. So, you know, having, you know, a team that's, you know, that's worked with others would be a benefit, again, to make sure that we're, you know, doing what.
Well, I guess that does address some of it, but the question is, here's the city council's plan, here's EDC's plan. We're all trying to find a plan that's going to be concentric, that has the same goals, the same strategy, the same timelines, you know, within budget, and that we don't overshoot our, you know, our abilities with respect to infrastructure. So sewer, water, those kinds of things. So would retail strategies be a complement to that, you know, to that initiative?
This could be a meshing of the two strategic plans.
So the only thing that came out of that strategic plan that related to economic development was the creation of an economic development strategic plan.
Right.
So this would satisfy that requirement. As far as plans, I mean, you got three of the council members right here. If you want to ask them their thoughts on it, but I guess this marries very well with what we're trying to do with the codification project, with the future land use planning we're doing, and all the changes we're making in preparation for the developments already here.
Okay.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
I just I would bring this forward, it didn't jive.
I know you would, but I mean, I want to make sure that everybody else understands that we're all in this together, so to speak. And if we work, one thing we haven't been able to do, we looked at getting a director, either EDC director, somebody works full time, and we're all obviously volunteer. So to have someone whose focus is to do nothing but this, and to have a timeline for, you know, for accountability and those kinds of things, that's something that we desperately are in need of. We want to make sure that we see it's coming, the wave is already here, and we know we have to put everything together to get it, you know, so that we don't get swallowed up by the wave, but we have a very well-managed rollout. Is that something you guys can assist with in terms of strategies?
think it's interesting when you look at a full-time economic development director, what are you really looking for in that position? And traditional economic development directors are going after industrial recruitment, most of them. And when I look at Montgomery's municipal boundaries, I
There's
don't,
not a lot of space.
yeah, I don't know that that's the right fit, or
No,
from my
it's-
perspective, it
yeah.
wouldn't be what I would want to prioritize here. So what I think are some potential benefits of outsourcing versus having full-time from what we do, the retail recruitment in downtown. Our team is, we have an entire system. So the good thing is everything we do is an online project management software called Basecamp. Your team has access to it, our team has access. If we have any turnover on our team, we have layers of controls around that, right? So all the information's in there. We have a team of 3 for that reason. If we lose one, we rehire, and you have the other 2. So there's layers so no information is lost from our side. What I've seen a lot of times in economic development positions is they'll go in, takes them a year and a half to really learn what they're doing. And in the retail world, it takes about 5 years to figure out what you're doing, who to call, how to play the game,
Right.
the language, the data, all those things. Takes about 5 years. A lot of times in those new positions, they leave the city after 3 years. So right when they're starting to develop their contacts, get their stride, they're gone, and then you're back at ground zero. And that full-time position usually is an investment more than twice what we're talking about here.
Okay.
So the 80,000 in year one, to have somebody full-time, buy them the data, send them to all the conferences, while they're also going and getting educated on how to do this, right? And then they're probably gonna bring in their own set of consultants on top of that. Then you end up paying an outsourced consultant fee anyway. Then before you know it, you've tripled the budget and might not have that person that's going to create the longevity you need for the big wins.
That's a very good point. The turnover in city government is unbelievable, to be honest with you. And I think it's everywhere now.
It's everywhere.
It can't be just here, but to have some kind of continuity to where we can continue the stream, even if, in the dream, before, without losing, I think is a very, it's something strong, it's a strong consideration, because, and we don't have to manage them.
We've been working in El Campo for 11 years. We've been in Plainview, Texas for 9 years.
Okay.
Some of them, I mentioned I used to be at the shopping center group, but now retail strategy. So there are even some that I've worked with from my shopping center group days, so 15 years. And so we know, we've been through 5 different economic development directors in some of those cities. So when the new person comes on board, we're the ones saying, here's
what we've been
you
doing.
need to know about your city. Here's the history. I mean, we're kind of training them.
So it doesn't mean that down the road we can't pull in a director, but at the same time, because you've had those relationships with other cities. So my last question, I'll let the rest of the guys and gals ask it, but my last question is, what would you consider to be your greatest accomplishment in terms of city turnaround, and something that you guys look at as that's our pinnacle right there, if we can duplicate that everywhere?
Man, there are so many great ones. The reason we start with a 3-year partnership is because this process takes a lot of time. You do a lot of discovery in year one, you do a lot of planting seeds, right? And then those really start to come to fruition in year 2 and year 3. Every community we've worked with has had a win after 3 years. And I think that is huge. And so they vary by size. Some communities we work with have 2,000 people, some have 150,000 people, right? It really varies. So I'm really proud that every community we've worked with can really point to a win. The only reason anybody, ever doesn't renew with us is they have a new mayor come in typically and with a new initiative, and that's almost always why we don't continue a partnership. It's just
So you got a good track record.
we have a great track record. Really proud of that. There's a lot of stories. One that's close to my heart, just because I've personally worked it for so many years, is in Cookeville, Tennessee. It's a town of 30,000, halfway between Knoxville and Nashville. And they lost a huge industrial prospect because the CEO's wife said, I can't imagine living in the city because there's nowhere to shop me. And I'm not moving my family here. So they hired us, and it took about 5 years, but there's a brand new shopping center there, Academy Sports, Publix, about 230,000 square feet, about 600 jobs. And now they have a local sales tax collection of $2 million a year off of that shopping center, and half of that goes to their schools. So now the way that state structure is, so their school budget was enhanced by $1 million a year based on this 5-year journey we had. And since then, they've landed several major industrial businesses.
So it's kind of like in our business, we used to start a line to get a line. Even, so people want to be a part of something that looks like there's potential.
That's right, yeah.
So it's not hard, we used to start a line, there's nobody, somebody go get in the line, and then everybody would start to show up. So they want to know what's going on over there, So what you're saying then is that, one win could beget many, many more just by the fact that because everybody in retail talks, and everybody, ICSC and all this, everybody talks to everybody, so they know where the hot markets are, right? And what you guys do is you help highlight markets that are emerging growth markets, right?
That's right. I'm on the ICSC Board of Trustees. They invited me to come in and be their liaison to the public sector. So I have the honor of doing that the last 3 years.
How many trustees are there in the ICSC board?
There's about 40 trustees. So I'm there with all the mall owners and everything.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we'll be at our meeting coming up in September in Toronto. And so the way it works is they go around to the retailers and say, what's on your mind? All the retailers talk. Go to the owners, developers, what's on your mind, then they talk, and then we usually have a guest speaker, an economist come in and talk to us, so it's a lot of fun.
Okay, good.
Learn a lot, but the point of that, sharing that, is that we can usually, there's nobody in this industry we can't find a path to getting on the phone with.
Good. Well, that's excellent to know. Any other questions?
So you say you have typically a 3-year window?
We start with a 3-year contract. We'd love to be your long-term partner and renew that over and over again. We just ask that you start with the budget expectation and just timeline of giving us 3 years, so that it gives us enough time to really do our work.
But you've seen progress sooner than 3 years?
Yes, absolutely. Usually it takes about 18 months usually. That's when we can really point to wins. But there might be, right now, Montgomery's not hot enough, you probably have deals in the works that we can just pick up and add our expertise and help with. But our process, typically from the time we make that outreach until cash registers are ringing, will take about that long.
So in Fairview, Tennessee, which is borders Knoxville, is probably the hottest property in East Tennessee, back in 2010, we didn't have any economic development initiatives going on. We didn't have the dynamics in that town were a little odd. Once the council board changed over, they kind of saw economic development as a priority. So like Lacey said, the new mayor came in, a new council came in, that was a priority. So I was charged with getting all that stood up along with the town manager at the time. And that's when we contacted Retail Strategy. So they came in and stood everything up with us and for us during that period of time. I think we were going out to ICSC, we started that first year, but we had things and we had stuff going within 6 months.
Wow.
Which is really the only reason that Retail Strategies is here, is because I have heavy experience.
Success with them,
Yes.
Well, I think it's evident to us that as slow as government works, that if we don't do something soon, we're going to get swallowed up. I mean, we have to get something going, and we need to get it going soon. And we have a hot market. We know we have a hot market. I think it's going to be a duplicate of what you just described, where it's not going to take long for people to realize that they're already realizing there are these deals in the works. We don't have a huge footprint, but we do have a surrounding footprint with a lot of land. And so anything that within a 5 to 10 minute drive is going to bring development to the city. And I think that that's something that we have to, we need people to do it. Maybe one is not enough. I mean, that's when I first heard the pitch, the only negative I had to do more with just bringing in more retail when we don't have enough bodies to support the retail that we have now. So industrial was something that was floated by Chamber and other people. But now that I think about it more and I hear the statistics that people are working from home, they're buying $500,000 homes so they can work at home. And that means they're going to want to shop in the area. They're going to want to be, and we have a lot of rooftops coming up. And like he said, 5 to 10,000 rooftops in the next 5 years.
Yeah, the most important thing right now, think about the third space, that space between your work and your home, right? That's what people are craving.
Yes,
Yeah.
so also the redevelopment, like the Brookshire area, that Brookshire Brothers and that whole strip center shop center. I mean, look at all the parking lot space in there. It's massive,
Yeah.
and so it lends itself to someone who could come in and really redevelop that and make it something special. So Gary, where do we go from here?
Well, I don't know if
I have a couple of questions. It says you're partners with Crockett and Huntsville, Texas. Do you know how long you've been with either one of those cities?
Huntsville's still a fairly new engagement, and I do not remember when we started with Crockett. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know that. The answer I can find out pretty quickly probably, but quick text message if you don't mind, I can do that.
Crockett is a smaller town.
And that's on the downtown strategies. Let's see if I can ask Jen Gregory.
Plus, where is Jen out of? Is she local, like Houston or Austin?
She's in Starkville. Starkville, Mississippi. Oh, yeah.
So she comes here, and in that amount of money that we're paying, she's here.
She comes for
There's
this,
no extra.
that's right. She comes for the stakeholder meeting, and then the quarterly check-in calls are virtual. And there's no extra amount for that, that's correct. And I just texted her to see the dates on Crockett and Huntsville.
Any other questions, Carol?
I do, but I'm holding.
Bring it on. To get some extra crap.
Okay. We wrapped up Crockett at the beginning of this year, and Huntsville, we just got started. Okay.
same type of program.
The downtown. Which is the 5-year plan.
So nobody is basically in Montgomery except that one time.
The stakeholder meeting, that's correct. That's correct. And what we do at that meeting is we come in, do a walking tour, walk around, look at everything, and then have an hour-and-a-half stakeholder meeting. And then any other, things, anybody individually we need to meet with, since one day here, and then take that information back and write up the work action plan.
How many stakeholders do you typically have in a community this size?
It varies, it really depends on, usually 20 to 30 will be in a room.
So that would be could be made up of business leaders, some city government folks.
That's exactly right.
Okay, and everybody sort of comes together and sort of shares what their wants, needs, desires. Okay,
That's right.
and then you guys discuss a little bit about, the potential and some of the things that you've done, similar to what we've done here today.
We do, that is all listening. Stakeholders will facilitate it, but it's all listening.
Okay, all listed, okay. Well, that's
And then it's
good.
after that, and we send out a survey.
Yeah.
So we take
Okay.
input, and that's an electronic survey that goes to everybody, and that's in advance of the stakeholder meeting. So that helps us guide, the questions and the facilitation of conversation at the stakeholder meeting. And then we take all that back, and then that's when the plan is written.
How many touchbacks would you, well, that'll stop Gary from getting yelled at. How many touchbacks do you have with, say, myself or some of the people on the
Yeah.
MEDC board?
There's scheduled quarterly calls,
Okay.
virtual calls,
Okay.
and that's where it goes into whatever that work action plan. Here was your task for the quarter, here's who said they were taking it on, what tools did they have, or what did they need, did they get it done? And then meanwhile, Basecamp, that online project management
It's
software,
continuing.
it's about once a week, we send
Okay.
something your way.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And it's very much, we need a local task force to, be the local implementers.
Okay. Now, when you say local task force to implement, explain that a little bit. Like, what would be an item?
Items might be to send us the policy, what are the building
Okay,
codes.
gotcha.
We'll review that, and then maybe we look and identify, okay, here's some areas where we think you can enhance or tweak the building code to help with the downtown district, right? And then it would be, okay, well, who's responsible for that? And that would be like an idea. Or we're gonna work with an event, so I'm sure you would be the local task force. So we think this is a great idea for an event, and here are the ideas to do around that event.
Okay.
And so it would be
So
some
would-
city and maybe some business owners.
Oh, okay, that's what I was
So let me
wondering.
ask you this real quick. When you talk about recruitment of retail, are you actually recruiting retail, or are you just hoping and praying like we do? Because
Well,
we
two
get our-
different initiatives, right? So I was just talking about downtown, which downtown is not retail recruitment. It's just helping enhance what you already have downtown and really more about planning. And then the national retail recruitment we were talking about earlier, we actually call the developer, the retailer, the broker, we call them and say, we have a site for you in Montgomery. We think you need to be here. Here's the site. Here's who. We're going to connect you with the leasing agent or property owner. Here are the customized demographics. Here's the site plan. So that's the retail recruitment is very targeted to, and it's a slow approach because everybody we reach out to, it's very targeted. Demographics is specific, site specific, local, we call the property owner first, make sure that we have their permission to reach out to that person, we go through. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a dating website.
Yeah, matchmaker between real estate and prospects, that's right.
Here's the issue is that I've run into with ones that I've visited with, right? Companies that I was interested in, I thought, maybe we might, if we did things right, they might come. We're still too small. To do a 200,000, to get the retail, the large one, it's the need, it's the win, like the Home Depot,
Right.
you gotta have more, right? And
But somebody who's got all the facts, all the facts, I'm talking about.
I'm with you.
I'm not saying
For a
you-
second, they need that, their info to know where, when you say, here's my address, here's Montgomery, Texas, and in 30 minutes, they can tell you, oh, yeah, here's your, those people
That's
know,
true,
right?
Yeah.
When I talked to them on the phone, CEO of Shields, I gave him, hey, Montgomery, Texas, here's the zip code, oh, yeah, population is 19.
Well, it may not
He
be-
told me that within 5 minutes of being on the phone.
So how many of these companies have you talked to?
So I reached out to Shields, we're too small. I reached out to Hobby Lobby.
Okay.
I'm having trouble getting hold of that CEO, but.
All right, so two companies, 1.5. So she's got
But that's the
access to,
thing.
how many?
To as many as you want to.
Every one of them.
But what I'm saying is that they're gonna give her the same answer they give us, right?
How do we know that?
Right?
How do you know that? How do you know they're gonna give us?
Because all retailers are making money, and if you don't have the people, they don't make the money, because those investments are huge.
Yeah, but Home Depot didn't think that. Lupe Tortilla didn't think that.
Right, we're talking about a different kind of retail, right? Home Depot is a different kind of a retail than
Right.
that quality of life of, hey, you want a shopping center that's gonna have your clothing stores and stuff that gotta have foot traffic?
So you have two options. You do nothing, or you find somebody who knows where all the bodies are buried.
I'm with you, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
are we ready for that?
Well, we better be, because it's coming whether we want it or not.
And that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's coming,
Yeah,
whether we hire somebody or not.
well, we're gonna have to hire somebody, because these two guys, well, wherever. The guy that used to be there and this other one are only two people, and we don't have, we've already decided that's not enough.
And I agree, I'm not against hiring someone, but
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get through to you is that, like Dave said, our town, in the next 2 to 3 years, 1,000 homes.
Yeah,
Right? We don't have a hookup room for 1,000 homes.
yeah, well, that's for council to pull together, and I think that they will.
No, but the thing is, don't waste your money if you can't help it.
But look, if we can't put revenue in the sales tax column, then we can't grow the city.
And I agree.
It's a catch-22. If you can't grow the city, you can't put infrastructure in. So we need the infrastructure, we know that, but we can do that through all kinds of ways. You can do that through bonds and through different types of other resources. So I think somebody who believes in the town enough, I think will come.
Well,
And-
developer participation too is
Right.
huge.
It's gonna be, but it's gonna, and the thing is it's gonna have to be the exact right one that says, oh yeah, I think
Yeah.
we can make something happen there.
Yeah.
That's why I look for sporting goods stores and I look for
Yeah.
hobby stores.
Yeah.
People are gonna, that live outside of town are willing to come to that.
Have you ever been to
Go
IC?
hobby and go home.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Have you ever been to ICSC, the big retail show in Las Vegas? Have you ever been? Okay, it's thousands of retailers, literally thousands of retailers, and they're all doing deals. Millions and billions of dollars of deals are being done there. Someone who is on the board of ICSC has got all kinds of influence and access. And they can bring people that are, you can't even imagine. I mean, you and me are one-offs trying to get a hold of the CEO. They got them on speed dial. So that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, somebody who has influence and access. And that's something we don't have. And what we need to do is to determine, they're not gonna let us outgrow ourselves. They're gonna make sure that we have the infrastructure to support any businesses that do come in. But we've gotta do it, we need a strategy.
Oh, I don't.
We don't need to just be willy-nilly calling people. We need a foregone conclusion. This is happening, this infrastructure's going in now, this is when you guys can start breaking ground. And those, you know what I'm saying? So there's a
But that's
plan.
the thing, right, that there is a plan.
Yeah.
You haven't been privy to the plan, but there is a plan.
Oh, and
For certain businesses to be in certain areas.
Yeah.
And we have a certain amount of resources that we can put towards those resources.
Right.
So we have to pick very carefully,
right.
right?
Well, they're not gonna let us shoot ourselves in the foot. Like Lacey said, I think I don't need to speak for you, Lacey, but what you're basically saying is, it's gotta be a fair deal. It's gotta, TERS or, it was a section 380.
Chapter 380.
So 380 is what we've done to get people to sign,
Yeah, got it.
to get programs.
Got it.
Those are the agreements. we
Okay,
have.
so, but they're not gonna let us shoot ourselves in the foot to where the tax revenue won't be able, we're not gonna, it's not an in perpetuity type of deal, right? It's a limited,
It's very limited, it's all agreed upon, it's the same deal we made with Home Depot, 18 months,
yeah.
and they're done.
And then ordinances are already being formulated so that, for more business-friendly development, is that what I believe we're getting closer? Or at least
We're talking
defining.
the codification project. I think it's gonna be a multi-year project, but we are making some pretty good progress.
Good,
Our temporary ordinances are due to come out in the next 30 days.
good. I just think, you know, here's one thing I know after being on this board for, I don't know, four years now or whatever, close to that. The one thing I noticed that we're really good at is doing nothing. We're like experts at doing nothing, and we finally decided two things. One is we wanted to get some wayfinding signs. Well, thank God we're going to see that tonight, and it's finished. The other thing is we were going to get a director, and I see the point. I mean, we had a secretary last meeting, and the secretary was gone 2 days later, or 3 days later, whatever it was. The point is that people do not stay. And every time they stop and start and stop and start, we stop and start. We only see each other once a month. So to have someone or a consultant of any kind that is competent and working towards a greater good for all of us and doing it on a regular basis, I believe is an immeasurable support system.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I have some, my drawbacks are this, right? So we hire, right, one of my other real jobs, right?
Yeah.
Is we hire hire a lot of outside consulting firms.
Right.
And what we'll get into is the problem with consulting firms that just hand us work to do. And it's like, look, man, that's not why we hired you.
Right.
Right?
And that's one of the reasons I was asking Lacey about, who's the actual task force? Well, you got Patricia over here that's on our payroll. We got other people that can do it. And you have those of us who are semi-retired who have the ability to help and support and are willing to do it. So I don't know what that looks like, Lacey, but maybe you can describe so that, kind of help. That's a great question Casey's asking there, is who actually does the work?
Who does the, we do the work on okay, they're different for the two programs. So the National Retail Agreement, we're on the phone doing all that. We're calling the property owners, retailers, and then reporting back. Here's who we reached out to, here's what they said, their feedback. Would love to get a list from you of every retailer you want here that isn't, and I'd be happy to run some comparisons. We have mobile tracking data, so one of the things we'll do is, Hobby Lobby, for instance, we know, okay, this is the type of real estate they want. They want to be in typically 130,000 square foot shopping center, and right now they're going in with the usual suspects of Marshall, Five Below, Ulta, they're doing that full lineup, and then you have your out parcel where you're gonna get a Panda Express and a Chipotle, right? That's the type of development. Finally, Target started to expand again, so they're following a lot of Targets, I'd love to get a list from you of here's who I called or here's who I want. We always get requests for Trader Joe's. Everybody wants Trader Joe's, but they need 1 million people, right? And that's not going to be a good, fit for a lot of the communities we work with. So we could say, okay, this is what they require demographically. This is what they require by real estate, and this is where, if there's a chance we see it, like this is the way we have to piece it together. So we would certainly be happy to do that.
So it's very simple for companies that chase after. Shields is
Okay.
is family-owned,
Mhm.
employee-owned stores,
Okay.
right? Home Depot, or not Home Depot, but Hobby Lobby,
Yeah.
another family-owned,
Yeah.
family-started
Yeah.
business, very,
Exactly.
a conservative-based business.
Right.
The kind of stuff that will fit here and do well and draw things in.
We have a good relationship with them.
Those are the kind of businesses I'm looking for, those family-owned that, they're not sitting somewhere just cashing checks. We don't want extra politics.
You want privately owned companies rather
It'd
than
be
publicly
great.
traded. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
think
like
that,
shoe shows are privately, run. Anyway, all the different brands, but I see
but that would come out of the
Yeah.
stakeholders meeting too, where we get the vision of the entire
Yeah.
community, or at least
Yeah.
a good section of the community, and the Casey's and the Cheryls of the world, and everybody kind of comes together and says, okay, this is the first low-hanging fruit that we think we can attach ourselves to.
So I think it's also, and I know it's hard because there's two processes and two different. The stakeholder meeting is going to be for downtown, which is not the national
Okay.
retail recruitment.
Gotcha.
That's just for downtown, and then for the national retail recruitment, then that would be a different.
Subset of people.
Yeah, that's the set where we would just get a list from you, and
Okay.
it would be that different group.
Okay.
I'll give you the reason why I chase after businesses like that. So take your big retailers like JCPenney's and Sears and all these publicly traded corporations. The minute they have a downturn,
They go,
they shut them down.
right.
They'll come to, they're a little tiny town, they don't have a big, they're shut down. Now they have a big building sitting out there,
Right.
right? Those family-owned businesses that are, they're large, they're very corporate, they have more stake. They're not
So it's kind of like Home Depot. They find a way to find a way.
They're more choosy on where they go.
Right.
They're in it for the long haul.
Got it. Okay. That's a good point.
Yeah, what we're seeing with a lot of this-
Concept here too.
Yeah.
Also more tuned to our concept.
What are you seeing, Lacey, with a lot of this?
The ones that are filing bankruptcy right now, because there is such a low vacancy rate, that those spaces are getting backfilled really very quickly
Yeah.
by a lot of the brands that have been looking to open and haven't been able to find the right available real estate. The landlords love it because they're charging higher rent now. The co-tenants typically like it because they're gonna have a better new user in that space.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting about retail. It's definitely the most dynamic of all the commercial real estate spaces because it's, the brands are constantly opening and closing and changing. But I hear what you're saying. You want a good community partner, a brand that's going to be here, care, stick, and give back. So I understand that.
Ben, anything else to add? No? How about you, Miss Carol?
No, sir.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
So the agreements that are the next two agenda items, sorry, go ahead. Do you have something? The next two agenda items are the agreements that correspond with what Lacey just presented.
So 5 and 6?
Same agreements that were in the packets that Chris presented, so nothing's changed.
Okay, so I've read the agreements, and it looks fine to me. Do we want to vote on whether to accept it? Is this something?
Yeah, a couple highlights on the agreement, just so you guys feel a little bit more comfortable. It is a lot of money that we're asking. But one of the things we want to make sure we build in, I talked to Chris about this, is having a termination clause in there for no reason.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
It's in,
Okay,
we wanted that just in case we ran into budget problems.
just as an exit if we need to.
If for any reason we need to get out of this contract, we can get out of 30 days notice, so.
Okay.
They were good enough to do that, but I reviewed the scope of work and it's similar to the
It's
scope of
up,
work that
gotta
I.
go up.
With a prorated refund.
I doubt that.
Well, you accept it, so you bet on yourself, that's good.
There it is, right there. So what you'll notice in the contract, and this is our standard contract, actually, we also have it where we as consultants can fire the client. So there's been some cases where we've had really challenging, I know that wouldn't be the case here because y'all been great to work with, but there's been some cases where we partnered and the clients have been a real challenge. And so it goes both ways, actually. But yes, this is written in a way that allows for allows for if you don't want to go into year 2 or year 3, then you can just let us know, and we will. There's no penalty. There's nothing you can. We want it to be a good partnership for you and us. And after a year, I think that gives enough time for us to prove that we're not just going to give you work back and not do anything with it. So.
Well, these small governments, I can imagine, I mean, we're all probably set up the same way, but we have a lot of volunteers and we have a few government officials who are actually paid. And so volunteering and, I mean, just getting the right people in the right mix and knowing who are doers and who are just talkers and getting to the right people is, to me right now, it's just important to get some sort of traction and to show that we have the ability to actually do something. And the fact is that we only get together once a month. You probably see each other every day.
Oh, yeah.
And so having someone, a full team that's working on our behalf, that's why I like retail strategies originally, but my biggest concern had to do with, so you bring retail in, what happens if you don't have people to support it? And I think you answered that by saying a lot more people are working from home. I mean, statistically, I think that's correct. Even I'm working from home now, for the most part. So there's many, many people who are starting to do that more and more often. And it's become a normal, natural thing to do. And that being said, I don't know. All right, so yeah.
We're in our budget.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah, where in our budget do we have?
So this is that item that we just talked about for professional consulting. Right, so this was, we talked about the MEDC consultant, under your consulting and professional
I know
services.
we had already put the money in the budget for directors.
Right,
That's for
How much is there?
It's got more, it's like 120K, right?
How much is there?
I don't see that. I don't see it.
It's, right now, they've got a budget of 35.
Now, for next year's budget for consulting and professional services, you have $254,164.
Okay.
That includes a multitude of different things.
That's right.
The HDL sales tax piece is $5,000. The McGowan design piece, we were wayfinding, and we had the EDC consultants in there. Do you remember the amount that we had on that? So that covers for the first year. That's this would be
for
considered.
FY '25. So my recommendation
So it's 40K the first year,
for the
right?
first year,
Oh,
Okay, that's.
yeah, and we still have money for wayfinding, plenty of money for that,
So
right?
you do have money in this year's budget to
Yes.
do year one out of this year's budget.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna get
that's what
done.
we're looking at.
Okay.
Of only one portion.
No, I recommend we approve a 3-year contract with the first, and we're not waiting until October 1 to do this. So we do this now, get this rolling. We got the money in this year's budget for this year for the $80,000.
Right,
And then we have the money budgeted in your proposed budget.
For next
packet for next year to cover that as well.
and then we have reserves as well, so. I'm not-
We've got 2 point something in.
Yeah, we got quite a bit of reserves, okay. All right, so then we are covered with an exit strategy if we have to have one. We have, Lacey, where are you from?
I have residence in both Fort Worth and Birmingham.
Really?
Yep, I grew up in New Mexico, my family in Roswell, my family's in Lubbock, so,
Oh.
yeah.
So you were really there.
Roswell, New Mexico.
Roswell.
You're not, you don't know aliens? You don't get that question? You stick around Texas, you'll find plenty of aliens. Anyway, okay, that's a whole different story. Well, I want to say thank you for coming. We appreciate that. I think the answers I receive, at least from my perspective, it makes me feel more comfortable knowing that, number one, the president of the company came and visited us, that meant a lot. And secondly, that you answered and were able to answer every one of our questions confidently.
Great questions,
Yeah.
thank you for the discussion.
Yeah,
It's nice to have an opportunity to potentially work with Gary again. It's been
Yeah.
several
Well,
years, you're in good hands with me.
you know,
As
I always believe that, when you're working with a leader and that leader has confidence in you, then and that will be a great support for him. I mean, he's banking on you, you're banking on him.
Yeah.
So it's important that we let our leaders, choose the people that they know are going to represent their interest and our interest as a city. So that means a lot. So do we want to entertain a motion on item number 5 to accept the retail?
Item number 5 is the discussion, right?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, there is no,
The next two items are the corresponding contract.
Item 5 is to approve the agreement for retail strategies for the
Yeah, strategic plan.
planning.
Mhm.
Number 6 is for the retail recruitment.
got it, okay.
We're not doing both, are we?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
it's the same, one is for the national recruitment, the other is for the downtown strategy. Right, am I correct?
That's correct.
2 contracts, 2 different projects.
2 contracts, 2 different projects with the same company.
That's why we have the 2 different agenda items.
Okay.
They're both in
correct,
motion.
but I didn't know, oh, never mind.
Okay, all right, so we need a motion.
Which one is which?
Well, they're 2 separate ones. The first
I
one,
understand, so which?
the first one's for downtown, the second one is for bringing national retail. So the first one is the one that involves the stakeholder, the second one involves a separate team that's going to be reaching out for national retail. Something that you might want to be involved in, for sure.
Because it doesn't ever.
I know it's a little vague as far as,
Either one of them, so that's what I'm trying to understand.
we have 2 separate contracts.
Clear, very
Yeah.
Trying to understand which item is which, because it doesn't say anything about which one is which.
Number 5 is downtown strategy. I've been saying
Well,
downtown
yeah,
strategy.
yeah,
for a
yeah,
while,
cover
because
that.
It's a strategic. plan.
Strategic planning.
And I've been calling it more the name of our service as opposed to, I should have been saying strategic planning rather than
Okay.
downtown strategies. And so that's my reason for the confusion on number 5. That's for the stakeholder meeting, the work action plan, the local task force,
So we need a motion to accept the contract for retail strategies to implement strategic planning. Correct?
Yeah, you can actually make a motion to approve the item as proposed.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's just do that.
So you've got the fiscal impact in my cover memo, 24, 40 grand, and then the subsequent 2 years, 25 grand.
Yeah, we got the budget.
Okay,
Okay, so we need a motion. Who would like to make a motion that, to accept item number 5 as written?
I'll move the motion to accept the contract for retail strategies on item number 5.
Second.
There's been motion and seconded that we accept Retail Strategies as a company for strategic planning, and this is amendable, debatable, but requires a majority of vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? So item number 5, as written, passes. Item number 6 is basically the same thing, but it has to do with retail strategies for retail recruitment on the national level, but as written. Can we have a motion for item number 6?
I make a motion to accept item number 6 as presented.
I'll second
It's been motioned and seconded, we accept item number 6 as written. It's amendable, debatable, requires majority of vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No, yes.
Hmm?
I
No?
oppose.
Okay, it's noted it's been posed by Carol Langley, item number 6, but the majority carries and item number 6 is passed. Welcome, Retail Strategies, to our team.
Thank you. I look forward to
We look
working.
forward to working with you as well. We're grateful for we can't wait to, we actually got something done.
What is the amount?
Thank you.
Every time we get something done,
All you do is just spend a lot of money, man.
What is the amount of money that
For this year?
MEDC has to get approved by council to spend?
It's already in the budget.
It doesn't matter.
it. It's in the
It
budget.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, but once it's over a certain amount,
Yeah, so it's $10,000, it's non-budgeted items, so we'll take a look at it, see if it meets, council authorization, but we'll-
But it's
this is the
10,000.
hard work, is proving it.
it is a budget item though, I thought.
It's in the budget, yeah, we're not doing it then, so it's in the budget.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, Lacey, you're done. If you want to be done, you can stick around and just like to.
Lacey's gonna head back to the
And
floor.
that's our-
Okay, Fort Worth, okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out. And we look forward to working with you, all right?
Lacey, you should go to B, it would be easy. How about that?
That may be a lot cooler than I am.
Yeah, there you go.
though. That's just what you're thinking. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Safe travels going home.
Thank you for coming.
All right, so we will continue our meeting here with item number 7, consideration of possible action regarding the updated on-street parking concept along the South McCown on MEDC owned property, and authorizing the city engineers to prepare construction documents and specifications for the project. Has everybody had a chance to look at the revised additional parking spots? Because they really packed them in there. It looks good.
So Kathleen's here, she can talk to you a little bit about the design of it.
Hey!
Any detailed questions that you guys have about the proposal? Again, the city engineers here, Kevin can answer any questions you guys have about it.
Those parking spots for you guys?
Well, we all asked for more parking spaces, we were looking at 14.
All right.
So, well, we thought about what kind of cars y'all drive in Montgomery, and not Priuses. So they're your typical size parking space. They're more than, state minimum is an 8-foot parking space. And I think we've all parked in an 8-foot parking space, and nobody likes it. So these are not 8-foot parking spaces. They'll fit a truck, they'll fit the cars that Montgomery drives.
Can I ask you, what is the black box at the very top? Right there.
Yeah, the big space there.
Is that handicap?
We have it proposed just more as, it can be an island, it could be, just leave it landscape. Because the reason is that's where it starts to kind of curve back towards the road, so we can't fit any more parking spaces in there from a width perspective. So you can landscape it, you can keep it as
Okay.
just an extension of the sidewalk, like a concrete landing area. With your good landscaping, would probably be more something you'd be interested in,
Yeah.
but you've got options with that space right there.
And the pipe, is that like a French drain or something, or?
It's storm sewer, so there would be an inlet and just keeping the storm flow moving because you're adding impervious cover.
Oh, okay.
So there's gonna be asphalt, concrete, gravel.
We are proposing asphalt. Right. So there's, on page 81 of the packet, we've got a cost estimate listed, and there is a little bit of concrete work to be done, and then there's some concrete with sidewalk, but.
And this is the estimated soup to nuts kind of finished product here, 195K-ish?
Right.
Plus the design.
This is that 193,750 includes
Yeah.
WGA's
I was gonna say that should
So you've got engineering and reimbursables listed on this cost estimate, and then this is to the best that we can control.
Yeah.
Because it's publicly funded, we can't just go out and, because of the amount that it is and it's publicly funded, we can't just say, Mr. Contractor, go do this. It has to be bid.
Yeah, so we bid out.
So this is the best, this is our best estimate of what the cost is gonna be based on prices that we're seeing, recent bid prices of what the industry is looking like, to the best of our knowledge. Now, that doesn't say it's not gonna fluctuate, which is why we have 20% contingencies. That we build in that contingency buffer just in case the industry changes or the industry has changed and it hasn't made its way back to us yet or anything like that.
Got it.
So are we gonna be using city work employees for, say, clearing and prep, or is this gonna be contracted from the ground, turnkey all the way through?
Yes, it's typically turnkey. The reason is from a responsibility standpoint and from a cost standpoint. So from the responsibility standpoint, you want the same contractor to be responsible for anything from the moment you start turning dirt. If something goes wrong, you can point back to that contractor. From a cost perspective, they're already out there, and it's usually much more efficient for them to just use their own crews.
The raw basis is on performance. It's not just handing a check and forgetting.
No, so we do progress payments. So they don't get any work, they don't get any money on day one. They have to show proof of work. So how this works during construction is the same with any of our other contracts that we help administer throughout the city, all the other construction projects going on. So we have an inspector that goes out during the week. Our inspectors in town every single day checking on projects. They'll verify that the work is completed according to plans and specifications, and the contractor doesn't get paid unless the quantity's been verified.
What is the timeline for beginning to end? I know I saw it in here somewhere, but.
Yeah, so we are looking at, so a lot of this is gonna be us working with TxDOT. So we're estimating, so we're asking for 30 days just to give us some preliminary discussions with TxDOT, because what we have in here is a potential closure of the county.
Right, I saw that. What are those concrete, are they like concrete pillars that would go across that?
Yeah, so you've seen them before, they're called bollards, they're just the big concrete
Yeah.
tubes,
Tubes, okay.
essentially. Just big concrete pipes, so anything regarding closing the county, we have to coordinate with TxDOT. So we've got a little bit of time in here to work with that, as well as getting a survey crew out, usually takes about 30 days. We've got 45 days for design, approvals and permitting. If we do end up going with the TxDOT closure, we're gonna have to send our plans to TxDOT and go through that review process. Bid phase is 30 days, that's pretty standard, there's really not much we can do to shorten that. Contracts is usually, we can get them done in about 21 days, and then construction, we're estimating 45 days from start to finish. So you're looking at, what we've got here is 217 days.
Okay, so we've got 170,000, was it? For 14 parking spots, basically, the closure of the county. 193. So,
All of our costs are time and materials, so we only pay for the time it takes us to do it.
yeah, and so it may not be quite that high. It's about $10,000 a space if they don't use it.
Just you used to do contingencies on there? Yeah,
We do.
20,
Yeah.
20%.
Correct.
Does that sound about right? I don't know.
I'll vote for
Yeah, it's,
the captain.
so the only reason I had was,
$14,000 a space.
And that seemed like,
So we're gonna put a big meter up at the end.
I mean, is it, I'm just trying to ascertain,
Let's
is
just,
that
let's
important?
just look at it differently. The half a parking lot that we paved over here downtown, I think what it cost us about 70,
I'd have certainty.
and we didn't own anything. That was just to put the pavement down.
Yeah, I know, it just seems like, I paid
That was,
a lot.
gosh, that was 5 to 7 years ago.
We may not have done those drainage studies.
I'm just wondering if it's money well spent, that's all I'm asking. I mean, what do you
I
guys?
don't disagree. My biggest thing when I brought the idea forward is movement, right? This is part, it's actually drawn in little pictures, you know, for the downtown improvement.
Yeah.
Everybody wonders when we're gonna start. Well, it's a start.
Yeah, I'm all about the start.
Yeah, it's not a
You
huge
know,
start,
you know
but it's
me,
a
I'm not
step
afraid
in
to
the right
start,
direction.
I'm ready to start. Carol, what do you think about this?
The city would have to approve the road closure first, is that correct?
Yeah.
Council authorize it for those guys got some.
Right. Before they go.
Again, this works both ways.
Text
It
them.
it can work both ways.
I never dreamed that it would cost that much money, but I don't do that kind of work.
But what do you think about the enhancement factor of having an additional 14 parking spaces?
I would probably never park it, if you're asking me.
Yeah,
But people come in to shop, are they gonna park there where there's no shops right over here beside them except a donut shop and then walk throughout the
I
town?
know,
I have no
I've been
idea.
over, riding up and down that street myself, and I'm not, now that I've seen the price tag, I'm not feeling this. I mean, is there a better use of $193,000?
I don't
I think the
know that
wayfinding.
I thought there would ever be parking like that in that area.
Burnett? any-
Well, I think with I've looked at the materials, of course, concrete will be the base, but I really think you need more than 2 inches of asphalt.
That was my next question. Is it standard 2 inches thick?
It should be at least 3.
That's over, that's county, yeah.
But for a parking lot,
Yeah,
you
roll
do
well,
That's gotta be rolled 3 inches.
Yeah. I just don't know if it's worth spending $200,000 on 14 parking spaces. Although we do need parking.
I don't disagree with the location of it, but here's the thing, when you put the 14 there, and you put them anywhere, it costs the same amount. So the
No,
cost of it is
I know what
just-
you're saying, yeah. I'm wondering, I mean, we needed to see what it was gonna look like.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that labor cost, man, materials, man, it's crazy how I deal with all the time.
Yeah. I don't think they're out of line.
That's really mine also, yeah.
I just think I'm got a little sticker shock right now. I'm wondering if that's a priority, or if we want to focus on pouring money into our wayfinding signs to get people moving around a little bit better, and taking part of those, which are the parking signs, and put it in the designated areas so people actually know where to park. So maybe that, might be something to consider.
So you said 7 more people can park in Brooks Brothers, correct?
A lot of people can park in Berkeley Road.
If they don't wanna walk from here, they walk from Brooklyn, they're across that front.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very much further, really, and I don't know, I mean, I just, any thoughts, guys? Dave, anything? I mean, you've been here around a long time, but
I don't have any thoughts that are gonna add to the discussion. Like you said, we've seen a lot of parking, kind of needs and demands downtown. It comes down to, I think, on location, what's right here. It's I think you'd never get to the kind of the ultimate goal, and that, there's an available spot right in front of the door.
right.
I think that, any parking downtown is a highly visible one, so.
Well, it is highly visible, but getting to it isn't, Getting to it is gonna be blocked off right where it looks like you should go in. And so that's why I'm considering, that in terms of, is it really gonna give us much bang for the buck? That's all
If you're worried about it being utilized, you would probably have it utilized more if you don't close the road.
that's what I was thinking.
Folks coming in, you think about your festivals or your Saturdays.
Yeah, you could put your
downtown,
wayfinding
coming off
signs
of-
right there.
Coming off of 105
way?
seat parking.
Make the street one way.
McAllen's gonna be eventually.
Well, if we get council sign off on it, but because leaving out of here is like, is dangerous, but coming in is not.
But if you're coming in from 105,
That's why I said if we make it one way door.
I don't know anything about making directional mandates, but that seems to be, I know there's a little more
Texas, I
shit.
would love us to close that road.
I hate to say this, but, because it's totally goes against my grain, but maybe we should table this and try to, now that we have a price tag and what it might look like, noodle it just a little bit longer to decide if it's something we really, really want to do. I mean,
Well, the prices will get higher if we don't decide.
that's that?
Prices will go up if we don't decide.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what does everybody think? It's kind of one of those things.
So, other than the wayfinder signs, what other projects do we got?
Well, the downtown beautification is a big project, but we might have to put a little,
Isn't this part of that same plan?
it is part of it, yeah.
That's why we bought the problem.
That's true.
What do we have budget for this year?
Do we have it in our budget for this year?
I mean, I'm asking, is it?
I have no idea. We'd have to look.
This project you're
Yeah.
talking about,
This project, we did not budget this specific project in there. You've got the money to do the project, either unallocated funds from this year, I don't know what that amount is, right now, but it's probably on that budget report.
you find it,
On this one,
Yeah.
on the monthly one?
Yeah, whatever your, if you got kind of a issue delta between your revenue and expenses, that's enough, I don't want to sound like that's an absolute number, but that's going to give us a pretty good gauge of, what have we taken in this year, what have we, expended this year, and those, whatever that delta is, I know. Sort of like on the events, we spent much less than what we
Budget
budgeted,
on the downtown.
so I know that there's available funds.
It's downtown improvement, right?
So, right, the money that we got in there this year under those items.
90.
I'll tell you that we've allocated that money toward the consultants. For the downtown streetscape design that,
Oh, I see,
contract,
yeah.
that money's going ultimately is earmarked to pay them in their continued work.
So Dave, we would have to pull from where, did you say?
I don't know the budget.
we'd have to look at the numbers, and if there's a difference between what you guys have in revenue, we may have to pull from fund balance for the trying to get this year.
So,
But I would recommend, if you guys don't feel like this is a priority, kind of going back to what Lacey and her team's gonna do, the strategic planning, I would wait, see if it comes up as a priority.
I agree.
downtown.
I think we should get with the stakeholders and let's see what they
And
want.
that's the reason why we're doing that plan. So
Exactly.
we can have an action plan for this.
So I almost
I
say,
agree with that.
is that okay? Can we just agree to table it for now? Do we have to make a motion to table it?
So,
We're gonna put a date on it.
Catherine, how much farther do you have to go to finish plans or are you pretty much done?
We haven't started plans, we haven't authorized.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't have anything moving along, so except, well, this is just, thank you, by the way, for giving us at least something to look at.
Yeah.
And I think now that we have a partner in the development side of things, I agree. I think that's,
Yeah, so let's wait and see what
the smart thing to do is let them help us help ourselves, right? And get some extra feedback from the rest of the community. Okay.
You don't have to put a date on it, you can just table it until the strategic, plan is done, or.
Okay, all right. Do we
Just
need a motion?
table it definitely.
The only other question on the future, do we have to do anything with this other side?
The other side being,
If you block the street, because it's kind of janky right there, you're trying to turn into that parking lot.
you may want to, if you end up closing the county, you may want to consider doing something over there because it kind of comes in at the opposite angle that you'd be going at. So to kind of create more of a turn out of, we'll call it the Remax building, I know it's not considered Remax, but yeah, right now, their turnout
Yeah, it's
is towards one oh
an
five.
acute angle,
It
right?
is.
So it's very hard to serve.
It is, so yes.
Yeah, that retail strategist come through and help us out.
Absolutely.
All right, so do we need a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need a motion to table indefinitely until further information can be ascertained in the community.
We'll just, make a motion to table item number 7.
Anybody second?
Second.
Okay, this motion is amendable. It's been motioned and seconded that we table item number 7. It's amendable, debatable, it requires a majority vote. We have a majority? We did. Yes. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so we're going to table item number 7. Item number 8, review and discussion of special purpose districts as related to economic development. And I believe that's you, Gary, right?
That would be Catherine.
Oh!
Nice try.
Back again. Okay, so at the budget workshop, gentlemen, at the budget workshop, it was asked for us to take a look at the difference between a TERS and an MMD. Now, Lacey brought up TERS very briefly, and I'm glad she did for the softball that was great. But looking at, so this is a high-level glance at the differences between a TERS and an MMD as options for creating a funding mechanism for your downtown, because I understand that was the goal. So walking you through what's in the letter in front of you. So the two main differences that I want to point out is how, kind of, one, how they're created, and two, where the money comes from. So it's all based on property taxes. So I believe at the budget workshop I said something about sales tax. I misspoke. These are related to property taxes. So an MMD has to be petitioned by the property owners. So the folks who already own property in the downtown area or wherever y'all are thinking an MMD may be appropriate, would have to come from the property owners. We mostly see these MMDs on developer projects. The developer owns all of the property. They create the MMD in the beginning, and then they start subdividing and selling off the parcels. A TERS can be created by the governing body, so the city council has the authority to create a TERS over a defined area that they decide. I'm gonna focus my attention on a TERS just because it's more applicable to the city. So a TERS it stimulates economic development by using an incremental property tax revenue increases. What this does not mean that it's an additional tax. It's not an additional tax rate. That's an MMD, where you think like a mud tax. So with a TERS, when that TERS is put into place, you set a base level of the property tax revenue that you're receiving. After that TERS goes into place, any increase in your property tax revenue, whether based on city tax rate increases or values increase, that additional revenue that comes to the city then goes into this TERS account and is reinvested into that same area instead of going to the city's general pocketbook. So, to use round numbers, if your base level is $100,000 in tax revenue from the bounds of your TERS, and then next year that revenue goes up to $110,000, you now have $10,000 in the pocket to reinvest into that TERS. That base level $100,000 still goes to the city, but now you've got $10,000 to work with. Then the next year it goes up to $120,000, so now you've got $30,000 in the pocketbook. So that money then gets reinvested only within the bounds of that specific zone.
Now, the boundary of the TERS is what?
It's,
Primarily the downtown area and all the way
Well,
over.
I think we would set it.
yeah, whatever the governing body defines it as. If you want it to just be the historic district or the downtown district or bounded by these streets or wherever you define it to be, that's where it counts.
Where do they normally put it, TERS? Is it someplace where there's a possibility for future development?
So you can because that would, you'd see a huge jump in the revenue from there. Understanding that big jump in revenue is not going to the city's general operating fund.
Where does it go?
It would go
goes back to
into
the TERS.
TERS.
And what is the TERS budget used for?
Only
It's to
developing that area.
redevelop that, it's for,
Okay, so it's just recycle, it recycles the tax for that.
It's basically
you're
the
taking that
same.
increase in tax and putting it right back into that same
Okay.
area.
Anything in this
It'd be hard to
square,
take in Brookshire.
It stays in the
it
square.
stays, anything above our base rate stays in the square.
Anything above our base rate stays in the square, okay.
Yes,
Got it.
yeah. So you could put a currently undeveloped tract in your TERS. The governing body just has to decide to do that, knowing that they're not gonna get that increased tax revenue
Gotcha.
from that first tract. Where you typically see a TERS is in areas that are needing revitalizing.
Oh,
And
okay.
you kind of want to pay special attention to that area. We'll see these in Houston, in places where they're doing some,
Like third ward kind of stuff.
exactly, going in and revitalizing beautification, you're doing streetscape projects or drainage improvements to try to make it better within that specific
So the
area.
downtown area might be a good,
It could be the down, and from what the budget workshop talked about, it seems like that was the focus.
that is the focus, okay.
Yeah, it's focused on this.
Some people that are going to frequent that area.
I think that's a great idea,
Yeah, so they're governed by a board,
okay?
and whenever the TERS is established, it's established for a set period of time. After that period of time, it's either dissolved or it has to get reestablished. So basically, it's a review period, every X number of years, however long it gets set for, and that can be determined at the time setting. How long do we want to revisit, how often do you want to revisit the TERS and see if this is still a good idea? You can do that.
So do the city have total control of the TERS? Do you go to the county, county's going back to the city?
No, it wouldn't go back to the county. It would stay, the city is considered the governing body. So it stays at the city level. The TERS has a separate board that decides how those funds can be spent. But ultimately, its creation or dissolution is at the hands of city council.
And is that board made up of the same, just completely different group of people? Or is it, what do they start with, money-wise? I mean, do they have any budget at all?
Nothing.
They start with zero until something's done up and above.
So once your property values go up, which they go up every year, right?
Yeah.
Then that
Yeah.
extra would go into the TERS. And
Okay.
then just build.
The city has to be. in a
So it could take a while
position to
before
accept taking
depending on the
additional
area.
revenue.
Depending what you're trying to do.
Road.
Yes, now that's a good point
So what- why
that
would we
Dan just
develop
made.
our-
So what-
Go ahead.
I was saying that's a good point that Dan just made, that the city council has to understand that by creating this TERS, yes, that money is gonna go back into the TERS, but understanding that increase in ad valorem is not going into the general operating budget.
So basically, it boxes the city out of their additional revenue for
But-
developing
Not
it.
But
necessarily,
the
it's
city
still
is
going
not having
to,
to come up with additional revenue to continue to do the project.
Gotcha, okay, so whether it's infrastructure or
All it does is instead of putting it into a pot that can be divvied out generally, it's focused.
Okay,
In that area.
that's a very good point.
yeah, it's
Okay,
not
that makes
leaving, the money's not leaving the city.
sense. Right,
You just can't use tax revenue from the downtown area in
for
Terre
say a parade. Got
or
it.
in, to do storm sewer improvements in Terre or whatever it may be.
It's really similar to, I talked to Marianne briefly about setting up ordinances that force us to put a certain amount of money into a street fund, into a drainage fund every single year,
Yeah,
and that's what it has to be spent on.
gotcha.
But this is more open in the fact that if it's in this area, whatever is in that area, it can pay for that.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, so is there any specific area that we're thinking that we really want to focus on?
I don't know, you have to get it past council.
What I would suggest is,
Just ask council to approve it?
well, no,
Because
because council needs to define the area. at
Oh,
that
so let
time.
council define the area.
Well, I say council needs to define the area because they're the ones that are putting this TERS into existence.
They're taking a hit if anything
But
goes
since
about.
Lacey already mentioned the TERS, this would be something that their company would be able to help us and identify here, this would be a good region for TERS include these streets, and, here's where you're gonna.
So again, back to retail strategies, they would be able to help with that, that makes more
Identify the
sense.
areas.
Yes.
Okay, so they would look at that and go, yeah, this is really where you want to go with the tourism.
Yeah, right, and they'll be able to offer suggestions about, you really should stop it here, because outside of this bound, you might not see much growth, or you don't wanna include this property, or you do wanna include.
So to get the most bang for the buck of the tourists, have somebody who's done the legwork, the groundwork, and made the determination where it makes most sense.
You want it to be thought out of where your boundaries are of the church. You don't want to just kind of be thrown a dart on that, because of, you want to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck.
All right, so as far as this item is concerned, is this something that we just want to, by the way, thanks for helping us understand.
Yeah.
I've heard the name church done around forever, and I've looked it up, I didn't really understand it. It's a bit complicated, but you simplified it, Captain, thank you.
You're very welcome. On page 2, I just want to walk y'all through this, so if you're looking back at this later on, hopefully I can get ahead of any questions that you have. So I listed out pros and cons of a TERS versus an MMD. Some of the cons of a TERS are, which we talked about, the first two, how it has to be reauthorized or terminated at the end of that TERS term limit, if you will. And then the ad valorem taxes are kind of focused instead of being available widespread throughout the city. The third con that I have listed, this is just more on a public perception. There can, for those who aren't in the weeds on the TERS, there can be a feeling of a lack of transparency on how's my money being used. You're taking these taxes and how's it even being used within the TERS. So there would be some education to be done with the general community, which is not a bad thing by any means. And then the fourth one on there is potential for unequal quality of the development around the TERS. So because you now have this area with focused funding, there is an opportunity for just outside the bounds of the TERS, maybe doesn't get as focused of improvements.
So if you put in sidewalks, they have the money to do the sidewalks, new sidewalks, or the streets within the rivers, and then they stop. Right, and the city doesn't pick it up and say, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and finish it. It says, here's a nice little fancy
Makes
spot,
sense.
and then, or Joe.
That's one of the
possible
possible cons of doing that.
Potential, and that can be
You could always pick it
avoided,
up.
with,
The city would have.
yes, yeah. So again, I would focus your attention on a TERS instead of an
The city's
NMD.
gaining the additional revenue on the outside of that.
Okay, well, so we, now that we understand it better, we just need to maybe put it on the project, or on the radar for retail strategies. Okay.
One point, I'll just pass that, take this home with you. This article that I ran across from Kiva on the news the other day, just passing it over, just pass it down. So there was a TERS that was just formed in the city of Seguin. It was right along I-10, and this article didn't have a lot of details about the exact, again, the off and weeds details, but the big numbers or the big takeaways was they formed 150-acre TERS that had that baseline value that she talked about was 64 million. So the TERS had a 25-year lifespan, and they expected it to raise about 8.5 million. Because again, it's not an extra tax, it's a carve out from within your current tax.
Okay.
So it's not like it's a cap,
It's kind of like the police district thing
Yes.
we're doing right here.
it's right, yeah, it's exactly.
You're just carving it out to move it over to a different bucket.
Right, so the city of Seguin's TERS, about 150 acres, again, there's a whole lot that goes into this, it's just kind of a reference point.
Right.
But they thought, well, okay, 150 acres, that's gonna net us about 340,000 a year over the next 25 years.
Okay.
Or about 8.5 million at the end of that 25 years. So just as an order of magnitude, I thought it was a good topical example of what a TERS can generate. Because that's what I've, kind of not seen in my research and looking is, well, what does it mean from from a budget standpoint? Where does this raise? How, I get the concept that I can improve these things, but what does the number look like? So I thought this was just a good example of a whole bunch of them. So this is not anything indicative of anything, but just.
That's a very interesting way of driving revenue for a particular area that needs it. And I suspect that retail strategies will help us define what might be the best use for that. So we don't need to do anything, it's just a discussion. So we'll head on to item number 9, consideration of possible action on the final designs, the documents that were prepared by, is it MERS Design for the City of Montgomery, the Texas Wayfinding Program.
That's it. So you've got this information in your packet. I won't go through it. You've seen it.
It's a lot.
About it. But this is the, again, think of this as a cookbook that, at any point that we pick this up, anybody after us that picks this up, you're not going to wonder what that font was or typeface was. You're not going to wonder what the size, what color, specific colors. This helps us, this gives us our roadmap, along with these phases and locations.
And I love it. I read the whole thing. It's fascinating to me and how much detail went into this. It's extraordinary to think that our city could look this amazing with these beautiful signs and how polished we look when you go into this town. It's a baby step, but it's a big baby step. And we don't have to bite this apple all at one time. Personally, I think retail strategy should assist with some, as far as which part of this apple we want to bite. But I still think we need to go bite first. Like she said, it's not a bad thing to go ahead and start pushing that out. So what do we need to do today to push this along?
Gotcha. So kind of the way that staff sees this is, obviously with the citywide wayfinding program, we want the council to adopt this and or approve this really rather. We want them to approve this, that way the EDC paid for this project and a lot of the legwork to get it, fashioned. Council helped along the way with the joint workshop, but we want both of the bodies to approve this, so we know now, and all the staff that comes after us knows that this is the recipe book that you go to when we want to add these signs on this stretch of road or that's it.
What do you think, Eric? I love it. Okay, so everybody in favor of moving forward? Oh, yeah? Okay. So do we need to...
You just want to approve it, that's all we need to do. We talked a little bit earlier, in the context of the strategies, with the downtown strategies, as well as just kind of the comprehensive, kind of what's the strategic, direction that the EDC wants to go. Just say, before we pull the trigger on, let's buy 10 signs. Let's, make sure that that's the direction that y'all want to go.
Well, I think it's, I just love it. I think we got on the board to be able to create some changes in the city, and this is one that people can see when they step out their door. They can see that there's some definitive direction. Part of the time.
That continuity across the city.
Yeah, that's such a clean look. Yeah.
I have one question about this sign right here, right?
You talk about the.
Is it supposed to hang off the big one at the top?
Oh,
it
it's,
is a camera.
Is it supposed to hang off the edge of the brick?
I think so.
yes, you can see through the Texas star.
Because this looks like it's not placed center, right?
No, it's supposed to hang off the brick. And all the other signs have it at the very top where it's kind of hanging off the top too. See right there at the very top? I think it's just beautiful. Hey, we might be able to get the birthplace of the Texas flag on something. That's it too long. All right, so can we entertain a motion to accept the final designs prepared by MERS Design for the City of Montgomery, Texas Wayfinding Program?
I'll make a motion.
Yay. Second. All right, so it's been motioned and seconded that we accept item number 9 as written. It's amendable, debatable, but requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all those opposed? That is moving forward. Yay.
Who was that second? I'm sorry.
Arnett.
Arnett seconded, yeah. Okay, so we are going to, item number 10, discuss the elements of large city event logistics and private event companies. And I'm assuming
Sorry.
that's Patricia, right?
That's probably both of us, since we kind of collaborate on this.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
trying to find,
Yeah,
this is,
yeah,
I'm trying to find the.
you get another 100 pages. That thing was massive, yeah. next time we get a budget this deep, we might have to bring snacks. Yeah, we're good. Well, we've been real good about our meetings. They haven't run too long. We've been doing good.
All right, so this one, MEDC sources are to hold large events that are the festivals where organized by the community business groups. So this kind of relates back to the conversation we had about the wine festival that we talked about bringing on. And I think I told you at the last meeting, I want to keep this as a standing agenda item because we need to keep doing the research so we can bring you guys a recommendation. Right now, I don't have a recommendation other than for a large event, we've got to farm that stuff out. We've got to find some way to bring in some help and build the capacity we need internally just to manage the project.
Right.
So an event like the wine festival, and depending on the scale of it, that is one that I think we would need to look at some private help for. I don't know if there's other large events you guys want to talk about, but that was the one that I had in mind and kind of framing this whole conversation.
My understanding, the film festival's pretty big, and I don't really, I've never been, but I mean, I've listened to people, but I don't know, I know in Anderson or wherever they have it, apparently brings in 10,000, 15,000 people.
So we do a local for that one, and we do have, we do it for 2 days, and we get about 1,500 people.
Well, 1,500 here, okay.
It's a pretty good event for us.
And I do
Yeah,
have,
no, it is, I know some people.
that one I do have some help, so I do have 3 other ladies that help me out with that one. So
Okay.
we spread out, we meet up, and we give each other tasks, and then combine, like, get us together and keep going.
So I have a question. Patricia, probably more for you, but Canberra reached out to me by email and asked me and told to alert me that she's going to be requesting money for Sip and Stroll. Don't we already have in our budget something for Sip and Stroll?
Sip and Stroll, I never had a budget, so I started with nothing.
Okay, all right, so it never was added to our budget. So if she comes and asks for money from EDC, that's not something that we've already approved somewhere?
So let me give you a background on what's going on with Sip and Stroll. So Canberra, her events company is taking that over in co-partnership with the city. The way that evolved, it just came through conversations with her and the mayor and myself and Patricia just on some of the capacity building we didn't have to do that event. She felt she could do it better, so we're going to let her do it.
Okay.
We waived the fees for the permit. We covered the cost for insurance, so I don't know what she's going to come and ask you money for, but we are already covering the cost of this.
Yeah, because I didn't think, if we didn't have any.
She's handling all the vendors, so anything she brings in from vendors, that's between her and the vendor.
Oh, okay, so the city's not driving revenue off of
The
it.
city's not driving anything other than we're going to help publicize it. We're going to support it.
It may be that she's wanting, I don't know, it could be that she's wanting for police patrols or whatever, but I don't see the need for that.
Nothing's changing on that.
Okay, so if we didn't have anything budgeted for it before, I'm not sure why we would need something budgeted now. And if she's driving the revenue off the booth, then that's like a separate business for her that the city has given her access to. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood it because it needs to
She
come
should be
before.
reaching out to me,
Not me. And so I didn't answer the email, which is why I wanted to bring it up here. I want to make sure that I understand, clarify before I reach back out to her and let her know that
because
she.
you know that the event's not already happening yet, we're already falling off the rails. That's good to know.
Don't you love it when people just jump ahead, right? I don't know, I'm surprised she didn't reach out to you, or if you guys have already been in talks about it, but.
We talked about it for the past 3 months, that's the first thing I heard.
Oh, Lord, have mercy, okay. Well, that's the advantage of having somebody that works under your purview, you know? Okay, so I'll sit back, what else do we have?
So just kind of looping back to this conversation, and the reason why we wanted to have this is because I don't want you to think that we're dropping the whole research on that initiative. I think it's important that we keep pushing for that. I think it'd be a great event for us, but we still need to find that partner. Did you were able to find anything in your research?
So I did reach out to a few people, and
You gotta talk louder, please.
Yeah, some people are at the other end of the table.
sorry. So I did reach out to a few people, and I am getting in contact with the Biggest Texas. They just did their event in the county, and I have a friend that has a friend that they're gonna put me in contact with, so I already got their contact information, so I'm just gonna meet up with them and let them know what we're trying to plan out here, so that way they can give me some advice and also some help, like physical help, literally.
Yeah, right.
So they're gonna let me know what they do over there, because they do handle the biggest events out there, so.
So what I would like to do is let us talk to some of these firms that do this, let us talk to some of the cities
Okay,
that put events like this on, and try to put some sort of business proposal together
okay,
to bring you guys with a budget
yeah.
and all the elements, so you have something to act on. But right now, we're just still.
We're just kind of,
We're still-
we're gonna hold each other until we get a little more info. Okay, that's fine.
So this is not something that needs a motion then, is it?
No, it's just for discussion.
No, these are just discussion items, so, yeah.
I did see where in Navasota, where they do that Texas Bash, I think it's called, they were going with Charlie Diggs this year.
And we talked about Charlie Diggs.
Yes.
The city of Navasota was contracting with him
Okay.
to do it all this year. And in the past, the city did, but they hired someone to do the alcohol part. And then I don't know how they got their vans and stuff like that, but I did read where they were going with Charlie Diggs this year.
We'll take a look at
He might,
Well,
he knows how to
If
do
you're looking
it.
for promoters, there's one called Boots for Troops that puts on
Yes.
very, very good.
Ooh,
So I've heard his
that.
auction.
Boots for troops?
Boots
Yes.
for Troops.
He's
I know the guy,
really-
I've done his charity auctions for him at those concerts. Last year, he did 2 of them.
We'll look that up too.
Maybe we can-
Ball's good.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you guys in your
Oh,
industries
man.
have any recommendations on, like you're saying, send us something.
Well, you could,
Chase it
with
out.
booth, you could do a fill the boot at the wine festival. That'd be fun. I'm just fill the boot. Can you imagine drinking a boot full of wine?
But now he's really easy to work with too.
Okay.
Boots for Troops, he's great.
Boots for troops, you might
A
want to.
lot of his people are volunteer, almost all of them are volunteer, because it's a charity that he sends.
Yeah.
He sends all this.
And you bring up a good point. That's another thing Patty's working on, is building
Yeah.
volunteer capacity to help us
Yeah.
for our events.
And don't forget the churches either. There's churches in the area that, absolutely love to volunteer,
That's correct.
and that's what they do. They, in the church world, faith community is all about giving back. And the more you include them, the better they feel, because we just love to give. So that's the best part, okay? So just think about that. This man right here, he knows anybody and everybody that says yes when it comes to volunteering.
Yeah.
He's really good. So I would capitalize on that. It's a great guy.
I would take no
That's the
offense.
volunteer coordinator.
That's it.
Yeah, he's very good at that. He knows how to do it. Okay, so we'll just move on to, if it's okay?
Yeah, I'll keep this as a standing item on your agenda. just
Okay.
keep-
We can just keep it up there until we find some solution.
Yep.
Item number 11, the events reports and discussion. That would be you, Patricia. What else you got?
So, it's a 2-page report. The first one has all the upcoming events that are from September to December, and then the bottom portion is the private events that will be happening the rest of the year as well. And the second page is just an update on the expenses of the events budget.
Can we go back up just a little bit where the Montgomery Lone Star Street Dance? Look at the number on that, $26.79.
Yes, sir.
Is that just for one dance, or is that,
Correct. Yes.
are you serious?
It brings a huge crowd when the weather's nice.
The numbers that are there are based on the social media attraction of it. Whenever the event does happen, sometimes it gets to that number, sometimes it gets a little bit less, again, like Casey mentioned.
Let me ask you, are we marketing, that's newsworthy. I mean, we start seeing close to 3,000 people showing up for a dance in the street. That's like social media newsworthy, only in Texas kind of stuff. Is there anybody that's working with you in social media to help? Are you doing anything with social media?
I'm the one doing
Cheryl's
social
daughter
media.
No,
does that.
Cheryl's
Cheryl's
daughter does
is
it.
the one that puts it all together.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, we should be sending press releases out to, at least Congo Courier, the Woodlands, ABC 13.
We do have Montgomery,
I don't know. What?
Montgomery News was out there, so
is that event coming up in,
Community impact.
November 9th.
November.
will you
9th.
get with me on that? Let me help you get some PR for that, because that's got, I mean, that's Charlie Diggs type level type stuff. I mean, it's big.
For that, we take in consideration that they not all stay there, they come and go, because at the beginning of it, we have more like children's, yeah, it's more like.
But it gets happening the longer it
It's
goes.
just a DJ, it's not a
Yeah.
band.
Are there any vendors out there?
No,
There's no vendors, there's no food trucks, no
Are
nothing?
there vendors?
But there was a
No.
food truck, one of them I went to, there was a food
But
truck.
businesses
Should
down
they
there,
have businesses that stay open now?
Yes,
It's kind of
they do.
and all that.
They do,
they
okay.
want to keep,
Keep the business there. Okay, well, that's fine. That's actually one of the businesses that help them.
yes.
Okay, because they're not, yeah.
Because the cheese store, I know, stays open on the road.
Look, I think we can even get big. I didn't realize the numbers were that big. I think we can go bigger.
it depends again, like it fluctuates on the weather as well, so.
Look, if it's 600 less, it's still huge. Right? I mean, for a little small area like that, to be able to pull that off. I didn't realize that line dancing was that popular either. But that's,
Well, it's not all
It's
right.
not mine,
No.
that's, it's a bring your own beer, sit down, talk to your neighbor, listen to music.
it's a community
You
event.
can do
Bring
food
your
trucks up
lawn
in the
chair.
community center. area.
Hey, we might have to go cut a road.
Let's go cut a road.
Can you imagine? We might be doing the bump out there while everyone else is riding.
What the Mongols doing?
Yeah. All right, so Patricia, do me a favor, would you please, reach out to me in the next week or so, and please just, like a week from today's fine, or whatever, maybe you have time, but let's talk about really putting it on the map, okay? And, I mean, we could be bringing people from all over to come to this thing.
We actually do, we have a few people that come from different locations and like we mingle out there, I walk around to make sure the perimeter's good, but.
Well, deadlines for, yeah, deadlines for October are gonna be approaching pretty soon for, you know, getting it into, all the local papers and stuff. You wanna go ahead and get that started now, so maybe I'll help you write a press release for that and we'll get that
Yeah,
started,
and
okay?
that's an area too where you can capitalize on, you were talking earlier about doing t-shirts for the city stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, great idea.
They
Yeah.
buy them up quick.
Yeah, we need to do that. Do we have budget for anything like that, for promotional items? I know we do, it's in here somewhere.
You've got one to do that stuff.
We got more than enough money for that, okay. So if you'll add that, to add promotional items like birthplace of the Texas flag, we gotta get that trademark in place.
Do we have a logo date for that?
The goat?
We've used like Texas flag, you know, back in the day.
Why can't we just use a merge design up there with the Lone Star and the birthplace of the Texas flag and the flag?
You can put it, because it's the phrase that we trade, you know, some kind of way.
But we own that look, right?
You got the flexibility to add stuff to it, and, you know, what you
Just
actually
off on
put
the
the
sign.
issue on it, the words. So what you put with it is up to you guys.
But I'm saying, as part of those designs, we own those designs.
Oh, yeah, oh, yes.
Okay, so you could take the monument sign, just that portion, that top portion, and put that on a t-shirt, and that's clean as a whistle, and it's beautiful. And you put it on a hat even, you know, birthplace. And then now when we get these wayfinding signs coming out, it all looks the same. It all kind of comes together.
Branding.
I don't know, Jeff, if you heard, we were talking about this before the meeting. I shot an email, because you guys brought this up a couple meetings ago.
Yeah.
I shot an email to the city attorney to get an answer on trademarking. Can we sell merchandise at the local stores just to clear that from legally? I'll have it on the next agenda, so I'll follow.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything yet.
Because we're talking, let's see, it's August, that's September.
Yeah.
We have time to pull that off. But, you know, you can even get, you know, there's our local businesses here, there's several of them that do promotional items right here, you know, with the foam finger, what's it?
Yeah,
Lone Star?
spirit.
Spirit, yeah. But there's people that do that, and we could, you know, either sell or for purchase at.
They don't make foam fingers over there anymore, they got bought out and moved.
Yeah, the quilt shop that just opened up does also some type of whirlwind stuff next to it.
Anything else to add, Patricia?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, so, just the last two items, item number 12 then was discuss MEDC capital project priorities, and is that something that Dave, you need to share with us, or?
I put that on there,
Does the city engineer will review?
yeah, because we talked about this in the last workshop.
Right.
Just what capital projects would the MEDC board be willing to take on? Or what capital project priorities do you guys have? It's just, we talked about
It's just-
leaving this as a
Yeah,
statement.
I'm glad you put it on there as a placeholder. I think the next item is the one we sort of all agreed that we were gonna have to sit with right off the bat.
Yeah, so this is just continuing the discussion.
Yeah, just leave it on there and we'll continue it on there until, because we probably don't have anything to add.
Right, we'll just keep, iterating the conversation as it
Yeah.
happens with the council, and then where does EDC feel like?
If there's opportunities, yeah.
Where we can partner with council, okay.
Captain, did you have any?
The next-
Probably not.
Not necessarily, I mean, I have the capital projects list that we have been presenting to city council, but like, you know, I've been reviewing it and it just depends on what y'all are wanting to do.
Well, I kind of feel like the dad whose kid's going to college and you just, they keep calling you and saying, hey, can I get a Starbucks?
That's exactly what's happening. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
We need a Starbucks.
Can you give me a Starbucks card so I can just have a, okay, so anyway, go ahead, sorry.
But yeah, no, I agree, the next item is what we had talked about last time, as well as the McCown parking. So,
Yeah,
in the absence of, I guess, more ideas of where you'd like to have some capital projects, I think, you know, we can talk about that.
well, I mean, understanding where they're going, but also understanding now that we have a consulting company that's gonna help us define where we're going together, might make it easier for us to make those decisions that sort of bridge those, like I told her, to reconcile our common goals.
Yeah, absolutely, and y'all want to do projects that are focused on economic growth and economic development, and that doesn't always jive with facilities,
Right.
you know, and.
But sometimes it does, like if you need a,
Right.
you know, if you need a pipe, you know, and we gotta help you put it in or whatever, I mean, we should be able to partner and help out in those ways, especially if we have the funds to do it. Which brings us to the third, number, are you done, or, okay, and it brings us to number 13, and that's consideration possible action approval of a $75,000 contribution toward the construction of an oversizing of the city water main that's related to MISD's Career Technical Education Campus development. And so I believe we've already kind of beat that dead horse. Do we need to reiterate anything?
Yeah,
on
we
that?
have to make a motion to accept.
No, I know that, but does anybody not know about the project? We all do? Can we get a motion
I'd like to
to?
make a motion to approve item 13 as written.
I second.
So Arnett has made the motion to approve the consideration possible action of the approval of, well, not consider, but to approve the $75,000 contribution towards construction and oversizing of city water main related to MISD's CTE campus development, and it's been seconded by Casey. It's amendable, debatable, and it could require additional discussion, but it does need to have a majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so the ayes all have it, and I believe that's all we have on our agenda today. So at 8:28, which is a miracle for this milestone meeting, we will entertain a motion to conclude this meeting.
Wait a minute.
We have inquiries, just in case you guys want it, but
Oh, what's that? Board inquiries?
we're inquiry.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, down here, I'm sorry.
Just mention it.
Okay. All right, so do we have any board inquiries? I'm sorry. I'm so glad you're here.
No.
If it wasn't for you, I would never have that. You're like the train, the track that, anyway, okay. No inquiries? Okay, now we can entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
A second. So it's been motion and second, we adjourn today's meeting at 8:29 now. And that's amendable, debatable, requires a majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned. An hour and a half. That's a miracle.
Well done.
And we got everything we wanted to do, well, accomplished today.
Yep, we're moving.
That's what we're moving. Oh, okay. That's it.
That's all you need.
Okay, good meeting, guys. Thank you all. Man, that was good work, guys.
Finding the press operator.
I love it when it's, get something. That's what it is. That's all.
Money in that.
I'm also gonna leave
How you feel, Carol? Good meeting?
these are for Mike.
Thank you, Arnett. Hi, buddy. I'll see you so long. Bye, guys. Love you, Arnett.
That press run.
You know, when press is here, the line is there.
How many of those will make it?
Love you, Gary. Thank you, brother. Thank you for sharing the stories about those grandbabies.
Oh, yes.
Enjoy that 3.5-year-old.
Oh, I do.
There's nothing better than like
Labor, and stresses, and everything. Well, that's right, so to find somebody that's willing to stand there for 24 hours an hour, right? For 8 hours straight, and watch 4 presses, and just get the bucket, pull it out, whip it out, and make sure that they're, you know, because you gotta make the air bubbles, throw that trash out again, you know? But you gotta be, they gotta be humping them out, or they're not making money.
Yeah, as a kid, was there for a company called Peabody Tech Tank, and all we did was build staves for grain out there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's a neat business. I mean, it makes a good profit. It's, we do niche manufacturing, so that's one
Oh,
thing
yeah,
that's good for us. We don't do, you know, mainstream like regular O-rings and shit. We don't do that. You gotta have a.
No, but you get a niche like that, they'll pay for it too.
Right, so well, that's the thing. They come to us with their product. We don't have to go make that.
You just produce.
We produce it, right? So they'll come to us with a patent and say, okay, I need to make these, this is what I need it made out of, what can you do?
Yeah.
Well, we can turn out this many over this long, it's gonna cost this much, and then, okay.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because they gotta have it.
Yeah.
All right, see you later.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you're standing, you're not over here.
So I had,
Keith's down at 6.
yeah, I threw all those invoices.
Okay.
I'm gonna scan the folder one more time, just to make sure I didn't show them. But, yeah. Gone through, like layers of little marks of like, okay, this is when I saw it, this is when I checked it off, this is when I printed it, this is when I coded it. So, yeah, we are, there's a bunch that I'll send you that we paid. But I think it's just a matter of, I was talking with Mary Ann, there's some issue with when we send payment stubs or trunk stuff or whatever, trying to get the, was the person missing all the stuff that should be on there, like versus registry, trying to almost check it on the versus.
Okay.
So there's, she's working with, it's not her. She's trying to get that sorted out, so we don't know. So I think the ones that are like, oh, this is already paid, will turn out to be like, basically like the one, you know, like the first electronic payments, that like, information or what it was. So, cool.
Thank you.
Worked it right.
Yeah.
That's just always stuff. So,
That is still my, okay.
Have a good evening.